When you believe in things that you don't understand, then you suffer. Superstition is the way.
Hey guys, this has a lot more to do than just politics. New Era Detroit, they call it church accountability. Taking congregations to task for not serving the community in their estimation as those churches should. They say something doesn't add up when a pastor makes a lot of money, drives a luxury car, and yet the people who live near his church are in poverty.
Son, don't go to sleep while I'm talking. Hey, don't you lay your head back. I'm important. I'm somebody. Now, you might do your English teacher that way, but I'm not teaching English. I'm teaching eternal life here. I love you. You know I love you. Have I convinced you I love you? Yeah. You better nod your head yes. All right. Come on. Put it right there. All right. You stay awake and you listen to me. You say, well, he may never come back. Well, he ain't here now.
New information tonight about a former Richmond sheriff's deputy accused of having sexual contact with inmates.
We first alerted you on the NBC 12 News app as soon as we learned of the accusations against Matthew Mellerson, who is also a preacher. In fact, he was a chaplain at the Richmond City Jail before his arrest.
And where have you been, Mr. Underwood? And I noticed on the calendar I'm supposed to marry y'all. What makes you think I'd marry you? You're one of the sorriest church members I have. You're not worth 15 cents. And you want me to marry you to her? And you want to marry him? And he don't even know where he belongs? And you don't even know where you belong? Now, let me tell y'all, everybody here, how much I love these kids. Do you know I love you, sir? Stand up, big boy. Do you know I love you? All right. All right. Give me a little love. Wait a minute. I'm the real deal. All right, I know you are too, but you ain't been here.
A scuffle inside the sanctuary after New Era Detroit protests during a worship service.
Bro, let me go, man. Let's go.
Zeke, the leader of the group, offered no apologies for the dust-up at Great Faith Ministry Saturday, only the reasoning behind it.
This situation is bigger than just Wayne T. Jackson. This is about black churches and black pastors who live a lavish life on behalf of the people, and they're not giving back to their community.
He's referring to Bishop Wayne T. Jackson, the wealthy pastor that welcomed Donald Trump, drives a Rolls Royce, and lives in a mansion. Zeke was there for the offering Saturday.
When they started the offering at $1,000, and then they said if you don't got $1,000, then do $300. And if you don't got cash, then we got ATM machines. I don't understand that logic. I don't understand that way of thinking, and I don't understand that to be what religion is.
New at 11, Brent Solomon is learning more about the charges against him. Brent?
Yeah, we're talking felony offenses here. 3 male victims, 8 separate charges, and now a deputy out of a job. Oh, come on and bless the Lord. That's Matthew Mellerson preaching at a Richmond church back in 2014.
Even in your darkness, God still got his flashlight on you.
Mellerson was a chaplain at the Richmond jail, where he served as a sheriff's deputy. NBC 12 got a hold of these court documents. Mellerson indicted, accused of sexual contact with inmates.
I'm just confused.
Nikki Shaw has a loved one in custody at the Richmond jail and now has many questions about the allegations against Mellerson.
How long was this going on? How nobody noticed? You know, like, it's just, how did he get
to do this and nobody realized what was going on.
According to court records, the activity started back in September of last year and happened again 2 months later. It didn't stop there. More allegations this year, in January and in February.
Because I'll get my little Connie and we'll get in her little Buick Enclave. It's paid for, and we'll sell what we need to sell, and we'll go on down the road, and we'll find some little podunk church that don't know up from down, and I'll find me a dozen Joe's baskets who don't have a pot or a window and who will shout Jesus, and I'll give the rest of my life to them.
Police say the former Reverend Henry Price is back to his old tricks, pimping homeless drug addicts as prostitutes.
New Era Detroit says the neighborhood surrounding Great Faith Ministries is by and large impoverished.
This guy has networks, churches, fancy cars, you know what I mean, $1 million houses, and there's babies in this community that's going without food at night. Somebody has to be frustrated about this enough to do something that will get people's attention, and that's what New Era Detroit did.
He was crowned the King of Kings. His midnight came.
Authorities say Mellerson used his position of power to lure those male inmates into sexual activity. He's doing court next month.
Are y'all keeping the camera on me back there in the little video room? Good. We're having trouble in the video room. There's no one finer than young Cox back there. And he comes down here and spends hours in that thing. But he has a little attitude adjustment that we're going to fix it. Brother Cox, you listening? Because, Brother Cox, I can fix your attitude adjustment. And I don't care what your mama thinks and your daddy thinks. And I don't have a better friend than your mama. But, Mama, you get out of my way when I'm messing with that boy, because I'm his preacher. I'm yours when I'm talking to you. But I'm his when I'm talking to him. And last I checked, he's a grown man.
The clerk at a East Hartford hotel was the one who called police about a stream of men coming and going from room 212 Tuesday, telling cops of two women coming to the lobby every now and then to give money to a man identified as Henry Price. Police talked to the women, say they found one had empty heroin bags and needles with obvious signs of IV drug use, scabs over much of her arms, and that both women admitted Price was their pimp. That he advertised them on local websites, set up rendezvous in hotel rooms, including here at the Ramada. Among their claims, that Price beat up another woman in a motel bathroom because she was pocketing money. The online ads really the only main difference from the claims that sent Price to prison in 2002 for 8 years. Prosecutors then saying he abused, had sex, and gave cash to prostitutes to buy drugs. Allegations he had first denied, saying his work as a vocal critic of Hartford police made him a target.
I'm definitely not guilty of any of the charges.
Price had spent time in prison back in the 80s for murdering a drug dealer who gave him low-grade cocaine. He was pardoned in the 90s, became a minister and community activist, working with ex-offenders.
What do you want? Justice!
But there was a string of arrests over a few years for pimping, rape, kidnapping, and then the 2002 conviction for promoting prostitution. He's familiar with the charges and the system, and Henry Price is back where he has been before, bail set at $500,000. Price is charged with promoting prostitution. Police also arrested the two women at the hotel with him. According to the arrest report, they are both homeless, addicted to heroin and crack.
Il faut se calmer. Tu vas te calmer. Voilà. Tu vas te calmer. Tu vas te calmer. Tu vas te calmer. Voilà.
That video room ain't going to be a youth hangout. We might as well just fix this thing. And I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Well, if you don't know what you're doing wrong, son, you don't care about what I want to do right. Because if you loved me and you submitted to me, you'd know what my heart is and my message is, and you wouldn't go about establishing your own kingdom in the video room.
Christianity. What is Christianity? How did it become the religion that we know today? And why did the slave masters feel it was beneficial to give Christianity to their slaves? Today, we're going to find out.
When you believe in things that you don't understand, and you suffer.
What's up? This is your boy Quality Kush from QualityKush.com. And today on New Thugs, we're talking about Christianity. The first thing you need to understand when researching Christianity is that the Bible itself is not one book, but 66 books that are compiled together. And each of these books was written at different times, most of them by different people. Some of them were written hundreds of years apart. This is why historical research is critical when you're reading the Bible if you want to analyze what it means, what it was intended for, and its overall message. In this presentation, we'll be analyzing Christianity from its conception to present day. How did it get here? Was it God-given or man-made? If Christianity was God-given, we would expect it to come from revelation. But if it's man-made, then we should be able to find historical tales in the scriptures that give away the earlier belief systems that it came from. All the data that I've researched and all of my sources are listed below. So if you want to fact check this information, which I encourage you to do, please check in the video description for the sources below. So how did Christianity become the religion that we know today? Well, the first thing that we have to understand is that the Old Testament is the Jewish Bible. Later on, Christian writers added on the New Testament and compiled them with the Old Testament and made the Bible. But the Old Testament alone is the Jewish Bible. This is a prerequisite that you have to understand if you want to understand how Christianity evolved. So take a look at these stages. We're going to get right back to the show, ladies and gentlemen, but first, please take a moment to hit the like button.
Push the button.
If it's your first time here, hit the subscribe button.
Come on, push the button.
Yeah, come on, push the button.
If you're already subscribed, make sure you hit the little bell icon. That way you get a notification every time we post a new video.
Push the goddamn button.
Push the goddamn button.
You heard what she said.
Each one of these stages was influenced by readily identifiable historical forces. And we'll be pointing out each one of these forces and how they influence the religion as we go along. And don't worry, I will define all of these terms for you. So if you don't know what one of these words means or understand what it says, don't worry about it. I got you. We're going to explain it as we go along. First, we see it started as Canaanite polytheism, and then it evolved into Jewish monotheism, and then later on into apocalyptic Judaism, and then that became what we know as early Christianity. So Canaanite polytheism, after the Assyrian and Babylonian conquest, becomes Jewish monotheism, and then after the Persian Zoroastrian influence, it becomes apocalyptic Judaism, and then after the Greco-Roman and Egyptian influence, it becomes what we know as early Christianity. So let's dissect these influences and break each one of them down step by step. So how did the Christian belief system change from polytheism to monotheism? Well, polytheism is the belief in multiple gods, and monotheism is the belief in one single God. Canaanite polytheism. What is Canaanite polytheism? Well, Canaan was the name of a large and prosperous ancient country, at times independent and at others a tributary to Egypt, located in the Levant region of present-day Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Israel. It was also known as Phoenicia. The ancestors of those who called themselves Jewish were not much different from Canaanite neighbors. Most notably, they believed in many gods. And the proof of this is in the Bible. Ezekiel 8:14. Then he brought me to the entrance, and I saw the woman sitting there, mourning the god Tammuz. Judges 10:6. The Israelites served the Baals and the Ashtoreths, and the gods of Aram, the gods of Sidon, the gods of Moab, the gods of the Ammonites, and the gods of the Philistines. 1 Kings 19:18. Yet I reserved 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed to Baal. So you have to read that scripture carefully. What that scripture in 1 Kings is saying is that only 7,000 Israelites don't worship Baal. Okay? And if you don't know what Baal is an ancient god worshipped in many ancient Middle Eastern communities, especially among the Canaanites, who apparently considered him a fertility deity and one of the most important gods in the pantheon. He was also called the Lord of Rain and Dew, the two forms of moisture that were indispensable for fertile soil in Canaan. But the thing we have to take away from this slide is that only 7,000 Israelites did not worship Baal according to the Bible. But wait, there's more. Polytheism in the Bible. 1 Corinthians 8:5. For even there are so-called gods, whether in heaven or on earth, as indeed there are many gods and many lords. Exodus 23. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Joshua 24:2. And Joshua said unto all the people, Thus said the Lord God of Israel, your fathers dwelt on the other side of the flood in the old time, even Terah, the father of Abraham, and the father of Nahor, and they served other gods. Judges 2:13. And they forsook the Lord and served Baal and Ashtaroth. So as you can see, there is a plethora of polytheism in the Bible. But this is Old Testament. So understand that the Old Testament was written years before the New Testament. The first book of the New Testament wasn't written until about 70 AD at the earliest. It might have been even later than that. The last book of the Old Testament was written like 300 BC. So these are two separate religious ideologies being merged together. And the earliest ideology was completely different than what we know as Christianity today. So how did it evolve? How did it change? Let's figure it out. So when reading the Bible, if you have read it, I'm sure you've noticed there are plural references to God in the Bible. But why are they plural? For example, in Genesis 1:26, we read, Then God said, Let us make man in our image after our likeness. Genesis 3:22 adds, Behold, the man has become like one of us in knowing good and evil. Why does God refer to himself as us? There's also a grammatical reason that could most naturally explain God's reference to himself as us. In Hebrew, there is a feature called the plural of majesty. The plural of majesty was used when a ruler or a king spoke of himself in the plural form in reference to his greatness. Instead of speaking of my rule, a king might speak of our rule over the land, even if he was speaking only of himself. This was common in ancient times. Many Hebrew scholars believe that this is the most appropriate understanding of these verses. God, in his greatness, refers to himself as us, as other rulers did during that time. If this be the case, it proves that the book of Genesis is written solely by humans with no revelation from a God, as God has no reason to have the same grammatical habits of humans during the time. Christians sometimes claim that this is the Trinity talking to himself. That's funny. If either common Christian explanation were the case, you would expect the pattern to continue throughout the Old Testament, but it doesn't. It only happens in some of the most earliest writings of the Old Testament. Do they refer to God in the plural form? We know from the Ugaritic text that it was common amongst religions from time to time to have a chief god that was supposedly in charge of a council of lesser gods. A much more plausible explanation is that the plural references in Genesis are remnants of those older polytheistic beliefs, seeing as how they were written around the same time as those beliefs were prevalent among the community. Hey, what's up? This is your boy Kweli Kush. If you like the videos on this channel, then why not visit our website, kwelikush.com. We post every day with topics ranging from religion to science, critical thinking, black-owned businesses, and much, much more. On the website, you'll also find links to all of the other social media related to Kweli Kush. I personally post a book recommendation daily to the blog, and we are 420 friendly. So come on down, visit us, leave a comment, and let us know what you think. kwelikush.com. Let's keep it going. Even more plural references to God in the Bible. Psalms 89, verse 5 through 10 The heavens praise your wonders, Lord, your faithfulness too, in the assembly of the holy ones. For who in the skies above can compare with the Lord? Who is like the Lord among the heavenly beings? In the council of the holy ones, God El is greatly feared. He is more awesome than all who surround him. Now that is a nail in the coffin right there. And it becomes even more apparent in other scriptures as well. But let's stick with this one for now. Who are these holy ones in the skies that the Bible refers to? Are they talking about angels? Well, in the Hebrew translation, we don't see the Hebrew word for angels, which is malak. Also, an all-powerful God doesn't need helpers if he's all-powerful. Again, it is much more plausible that these passages are remnants of earlier traditions which consisted of divine counsel, like the Canaanite gods, which had divine counsels in them. There are other verses which contradict these verses in favor of monotheism, but they are in the very few. These remnants prove that there was a polytheistic belief among the early culture that later editors to the text have skewed towards monotheism, but did not erase the traces completely. Now, as you can see, I've highlighted the word El on this slide. The reason for this is because there is a translation in Hebrew for El. So El was known as the supreme god of the Canaanites in the mythology of the ancient Near East. And he was the father of gods, including Baal and men and the creator deity. He is sometimes depicted as a bull and known for his tremendous power and strength. Genesis 17:1. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said, I am God Almighty. The Hebrew translation for that is El Shaddai. Walk before me and be blameless. The whole land of Canaan, where you are now an alien, I will give you everlasting possession to you and your descendants after you. I will be their God. Let's go to Genesis 28:3. It says, may God Almighty, in Hebrew translation is El Shaddai, bless you. Genesis 48:3. God Almighty, El Shaddai, appeared to me. So notice, in the English version, it has been changed to God Almighty. But in the original text, it was written as El Shaddai. What is El Shaddai? Well, El, we already know El is the name of the Canaanite god. And it's actually the God's name. It doesn't mean just a title God. It was a God named El. And Shaddai is Hebrew for Almighty. So it means El Almighty. The God El Almighty, not just a God. Somehow along the way, Christian writers have perverted the word El to mean a title of a god. But it was originally the name. And you can look this up. It was the name of the Canaanite god El. So let's break down this word a little further. El. The alleged monotheistic God of Christianity is consistently being referred to as Elohim, a plural form of El. So when did Yahweh appear in the Bible? Let's see. Exodus chapter 6, verse 2. And God spake unto Moses and said unto him, I am the Lord, and I appeared unto Abraham. Now this is God talking. Unto Isaac and unto Jacob by the name of God Almighty, but by my name Yahweh was I not known to them. The traditional view is that the book of Exodus was written by Moses based on the traditional date for the death of Moses. That would mean that it was written around 1400 BC. However, the view of the biblical scholars now is that Moses did not write and could not have written Exodus. So why would a monotheistic God go by more than one name, especially if he was attempting to teach his people about monotheism? The book of Exodus was already proven fiction by a man named Terrence Freedom. Look him up. The story of Exodus is the founding myth of the Israelites, telling of their deliverance from slavery by Yahweh, which made them chosen people according to the Mosaic covenant. Now this, to me, appears to be a sloppy attempt to merge two traditions of El and Yahweh. Over time, the traditions of God El and God Yahweh were fused together, and the other gods in the pantheon were eventually discarded and no longer worshipped. So let's look into the incremental merging of El and Yahweh. Writings such as, but not limited to, the Ugaritic text show that attributes of El were fused with attributes of Yahweh, and over many generations they became the same God. As the centuries passed, written references to El were modified to make El a more generic term for a god rather than the actual name of a specific Canaanite god. Likewise, over time, we see the writings of Baal transition from Baal being the son of El to Baal being the generic term for any foreign god. Now, the early Old Testament God was not this all-powerful God that we hear about today. And this we can prove with the scriptures. But today, Christians claim that God is all-powerful. So at what point during Christian evolution did God go from not all-powerful to all-powerful? Let's look into the emergence of omnipotence. Judges chapter 1, verse 19. And the Lord was with Judah, and he drave out the inhabitants of the mountain, but could not drive out the inhabitants of the valley, because they had chariots of iron. So basically, God couldn't beat these inhabitants of the valley because they had some iron chariots. That doesn't sound like an all-powerful God to me, yet it's in the Bible. 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 26. And when the king of Moab saw that the battle was too sore for him, he took with him 700 men that drew swords to break through even unto the kings of Edom, but they could not. Then he took his eldest son that should have reigned in his stead and offered him a burnt offering upon the wall. And there was a great indignation against Israel. And they departed from him and returned to their own land. So in the 2 Kings, we see the king of Moab at war with the Israelites. Prophet Elijah predicted that the Israelites would defeat the Moabites, if you remember correctly reading the Bible. But the king of Moab sacrifices his son to the god of the Moabites, Chemosh. Alright? Look up the god of the Moabites, Chemosh. And the Israelites were defeated. So apparently, the sacrifice to Chemosh was effective. And the Israelite god couldn't beat the Moabites because they made a sacrifice to Chemosh. So this proves that the Old Testament God could not have been omnipotent. So what was the turning point? When did the Jews go from polytheism to monotheism exactly? So all of the evidence that we've looked at so far suggests that the early Israelites were indigenous Canaanite people. If this is true, it would explain why there is zero evidence for the story of Exodus. It appears to me that the story of Exodus was written to later legitimize claims made by the Jews. But that's a separate topic for a separate video, so stay tuned for my presentation on the Exodus. Thank you for watching this video. We really enjoy bringing you this content. However, we could bring you much more content and much better content if we had more support. So if you want to support this channel, go to patreon.com/QualiKush, or you can go directly to QualiKush.com and click the About tab. Thanks for your support. Now let's get back to the show. So what were the historical forces that led to the turning point from Canaanite polytheism to Jewish monotheism? What was going on in the world at the time? Well, right after the golden age of King Solomon, kingdom of Israel was split into north and south, with the south becoming the kingdom of Judah. And in 722 BCE, the Assyrians conquered the northern kingdom of Israel, sometimes referred to as the lost tribe because they disappeared from history after that. And in 587 BCE, the Babylonians conquered Judah and enslaved the elite of Judean society. So, the Jews got their ass whooped. The northern kingdom disappeared and the southern kingdom was enslaved. And during this point, some of the Jews that were in exile actually developed a radical explanation for their capture. How and why would God allow it? So some of them thought that it was punishment by Yahweh. Some of them thought that the Assyrians and the Babylonians were Yahweh's tools. So not only was Yahweh in control of the Israelites, but he was in control of the Assyrians and the Babylonians too. This was a new concept at the time, that a God could be in control of other people that didn't adhere to that God. Therefore, if Yahweh was in control of the Assyrians, then he must be their God too. And thus we see the emergence of a monotheistic belief of one God rather than many gods. Now I want you to look very closely at these maps. Notice that Egypt is in Africa, because lots of people today will try to tell you that Egypt is not in Africa. But anytime we speak about Egypt, whether in the Bible or out of the Bible, we're talking about Africans, okay? So all of this stuff is heavily centered around the continent of Africa. Not only the Middle East, which is basically Africa. They don't want to call it, there's no continent called the Middle East, all right? There's Europe, there's Asia, there's Africa, and for some reason, they don't want to call the Middle East Africa. So they just call it the Middle East. But this is Africa, people. Look at Egypt. It's on the continent of Africa. It's right on top of Sudan. All right? Sudan is in Africa, and so is Egypt. And also take note of the ancient names for these cities and the modern day names for these cities. You got Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Sudan, Iran. There's our modern day names. And then we have the ancient names, Persia, Palestine, and Edom, and such. But notice that this is the same northern African region. First appearances of monotheism. Now in the year 540 BCE, at the end of captivity, we finally see writings expressing emphatic singularity of a deity. In Isaiah 45, verse 5. I am the Lord, there is no one else, there is no God beside me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me, that they may know me from the rising of the sun, and from the west, that there is no one beside me. I am the Lord, there is no one else. I form the light, I create darkness, I make peace and create evil. The Lord, I do all things. Look unto me and be ye saved, all the ends of the earth, for I am God, there is no one else. Now notice that there is no mention of a devil or an adversary, because at this time of these writings, those beliefs had not developed yet. All right? This is why you have to do a comparative reading of the Bible to know when these books were written, so you can understand what you read. Also in the early Judaism, you don't see a heaven or a hell. These concepts developed later on, and this proves that the religion is a progression that is evolving and is not one package sent down by God. But I digress. So the next historical influence is the Persian Zoroastrian influence, which converted the Jewish monotheism into apocalyptic Judaism. So what were the beliefs about the afterlife in the early Jewish community? At this point of the evolution of Christianity, there is no hell. There was a belief in Sheol, a world underneath the earth where disembodied dead souls went. It was believed that all people went to Sheol after death. In Job chapter 7 verse 9, we see, as the cloud fades and vanishes, so he who goes down to Sheol does not come up. Heaven was not then believed to be a destination in the afterlife, but was merely a place where God lived. And we see this in 1 Kings chapter 8 verse 30. Hear the supplication of your servant and of your people Israel when they pray toward this place. Hear from heaven, your dwelling place, and when you hear, forgive. So they had a concept of heaven, but it wasn't a place that you go. It was just where God lived. And they didn't have a hell. They had a place where everybody went in the afterlife, and there was neither pain nor suffering. It was just where dead souls went. So if there's no heaven or hell, how did the early Jewish God handle the rewards and punishment of their people? Well, let's find out. Deuteronomy 28:11. We see, and the Lord shall make thee plenteous in gods, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy ground, in the land which the Lord sware unto thy fathers to give thee. In Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 22, it says, but it shall come to pass, if you do not obey the voice of the Lord your God, the Lord will strike you with consumption, with fever, with inflammation, with severe burning, and with the sword, with scorching, with mildew. They shall pursue you until you perish. Exodus 34 verse 7. Keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children, upon the third and the fourth generation. And there's also more in Exodus 20, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. So basically what we see in Exodus 34 is that this God he couldn't get to people after they had perished. So he threatened to get to their children and their grandchildren, and if I can add, the great-grandchildren. So why punish generation after generation if you have a system to punish people in the afterlife? Well, there was no system to punish people in the afterlife. This is why these verses exist. Now, the early monotheists believed that God rewarded and punished people in life, not after death. This was known as the doctrine of intergenerational sin. So as I stated earlier, the earliest monotheists did not yet have a belief in a devil. Even in Genesis, the serpent is not mentioned to be the devil. The text simply says talking serpent. It wasn't until later authors added to the text that the serpent was considered to be the devil. You can read Genesis 3:14, and the Lord God said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cast above all cattle, above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly thou shalt go, and dust thou shalt eat all of the days of thy life. Now, how do we know that the serpent wasn't the devil? Well, because the book says plainly that God punished the serpent. So if God is all-knowing, and he knows that the serpent is being possessed by the devil, then God should have given the punishment to the devil, not the serpent, because the serpent would have been innocent in this scenario. So why would an all-knowing God punish a serpent for doing something that was against his own will? The serpent in the story was being possessed by the devil, so the Christians claim, post hoc. But if you read the story carefully, it doesn't say anything about the devil. It just says a talking serpent. So an all-knowing God wouldn't punish all serpents for one serpent getting possessed by the devil. An all-knowing God will punish the real wrongdoer, which would be the devil. So clearly, there's an inconsistency in the claims about the attributes of God and the stories that are written about God, which suggests to me that these are all myths. Oh, and not to mention the talking snake. So when did Satan first appear? Let's look at Job chapter 1, verse 6. The Lord said to Satan, very well then, everything he has in your power, but on the man himself do not lay a finger. Now I'm sure y'all know the story of Job. 1 Chronicles 21. And Satan stood up against Israel and provoked David to number Israel. Job chapter 1, verse 6. On the day the angels come to present themselves before, and Satan also came with them. Zechariah chapter 3. He showed me to Joshua and Satan standing at his right side to accuse him. Now I've highlighted the Hebrew translation for Satan, which is Ha-Satan. Ha meaning the, and Satan meaning adversary or one who obstructs. It doesn't refer to a specific individual. It just means the adversary. So note that in these scriptures, Satan is not in opposition to God. Satan is following and obeying God's commands. Notice that the two scriptures on the right cite Ha-Satan, which means the adversary. Thus, we see the beginning of the personification of an adversary figure. However, it was not a name, rather a title.
I absolutely love to read books, but honestly, sometimes I just don't feel like it. That's why I'm so grateful that I have a membership with Audible. Now I can have someone read books to me on demand whenever I want. Now I can listen to audiobooks while I'm exercising, cleaning the house, or visiting the royal throne. Sometimes I even like to listen to audiobooks as I fall asleep. It's actually quite relaxing. My Audible membership gives me thousands of books to choose from, which is why I'm recommending it to you. And if you use the link in the description, you can get 2 free audiobooks. That's 2 books of your choice, absolutely free, just for signing up via the link in the description. And you can even give Audible as a gift for someone you care about. Join Audible today.
Now the Persian Zoroastrian influence. But first, what is Zoroastrianism? Zoroastrianism is one of the oldest continuously practiced religions. It's a multi-tendency faith centered on a dualistic cosmology between good and evil, and the eschatology predicting the ultimate conquest of evil with theological elements like henotheism, monotheism, and polytheism. Now, what was going on in the world during this historical influence? Around the year 539 BC, the Persian Empire, ruled by Cyrus the Great, conquers Babylon. And remember, Babylon had already conquered the kingdom of Judah. So now they're being conquered. The Babylonians are being conquered by Cyrus the Great. And Cyrus the Great had a habit of freeing the slaves of the places that he would conquer. So he let the Jews go and even gave them financial assistance, helped them out, say, hey, y'all go over here, y'all do y'all thing. So for the next 200 years, Judah was a colony of Persia. 200 years. During this time, it's not unwise to assume that some Persian ideologies might rub off on the Jewish people. So coincidentally, we see the emergence during this time period of Persian rule that the Jewish adopted the beliefs in a judgment or afterlife, and they adopted the supernatural opponent to God, i.e. the devil, and that gave rise to what we now call apocalyptic Judaism, which would somehow reveal God's greatness and righteousness, some big event, an apocalypse that will reveal God's true power. Zoroastrians believed the good and bad were in a cosmic battle at all times. Sound familiar? The Zoroastrian god of good, Ahura Mazda, fought against the god of evil, Ahriman. They believed that good will eventually win, and at the time there will be a mass resurrection and judgment of all people. The good will go to paradise while the bad will into a nasty pit. So not only did they adopt the supernatural opponent, the judgment or afterlife, and apocalyptics, but they also gave rise to the idea of a resurrection. So apocalyptic Judaism. We now see the emergence of apocalyptic writings in scriptures only centuries after the Persians conquered Babylon, which held the Jews. 1 Corinthians 7 verse 29. Time is short. This world is in its present form is passing away. Mark 15. The time has come. The kingdom of God has come near. Repent and believe the good news. Jesus said that. Matthew chapter 3 verse 2. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven has come near. The axe is already at the roots of the trees. And I want you to go and look at when these books of the Bible were written so that you can understand how they became influenced by what was happening in the world around them. But let's keep on going, because now we get into the nitty-gritty, the juicy, the Greco-Roman and Egyptian influences, when apocalyptic Judaism transitioned into early Christianity as we know it today. So now in this time, we see three major influences being adopted by the Christians from Greco-Roman and Egyptian influences. One being the Trinity, two being the resurrection of the deity, and three being rituals. And this quote comes from circa 440 BC, long before any New Testament was ever thought of. It says, on this lake they hold at night an exhibition of Osiris' sufferings, a performance the Egyptians called the Mysteries. Now we're getting on to a more controversial topic. We don't have time to go that much in depth into this, but I did want to touch on it. So maybe we'll explore later in the future. Y'all let me know if there's something that you want to see. But I think it's better if you look up this stuff yourself, because you have a lot of people saying a lot of different things about this subject. Did the early Christians plagiarize the life of Jesus from earlier pre-existing deities, mainly Horus and Mithras? So I argue the answer is yes, because the similarities are just too similar to me. But Christians will argue that there are differences in these stories that make it to where you can say one of them didn't plagiarize from the other. But these differences are so minor. I mean, it's simple stuff like the virgin birth versus the miraculous birth. They say, oh, he didn't copy that because Jesus was born of a virgin and Horus was born from a miracle. Well, that's minor to me, you know. And in the Bible, it's a staff, and in the Book of the Dead, it's a pole. So that's plagiarism to me. But they say since it's not identical, they didn't copy it. But I'm going to leave that up to you, the viewer, to decide. So make sure you look into the Horus and Jesus' relationship and similarities between the two. So what else did the Christians get from the Egyptians? The Holy Trinity wasn't introduced until about 3 CE by an African Christian in Carthage by the name of Tertullian. Carthage was a colony of Rome during this time. And if you remember from before, Rome is also becoming heavily Christianized. So they're expanding their empire and they're spreading their religion. And where are they spreading it to? Northern Africa. Carthage, which is right next door to Egypt. So this guy, Tertullian, who is sandwiched right in between Egypt and Rome. Rome, heavily Christian. Egypt has a concept of a Trinity. And this guy invents the Trinity. People say they didn't get that from the Egyptians. I say open and shut case, Johnson. Now, the ancient Egyptians did have a Holy Trinity concept, but it was the Father, the Mother, and the Child. And when Tertullian got a hold of this concept, he perverted it and changed it into Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. So why would they remove the mother and replace her with a ghost? I'll tell you why. Because they were chauvinists. All right, and they couldn't conceive of what they considered to be a lowly woman as being equal to Yahweh. So they just removed her and replaced her with God, because they're making this thing up as they go along. Okay? Now, instead of father, mother, and child, they got 2 men and a fucking ghost. What do we know about ancient Rome? Ancient Rome was a patriarchal society where men held authority in private as well as public life. They had positions of power in politics, administration, and military. The men in ancient Rome were also the head of the family and enjoyed virtually unlimited powers over their wives. So basically the Romans were chauvinists. They were chauvinists. They didn't like women like that. Alright? So they took the mother and replaced her with a fucking ghost. So now, instead of having father, mother, and child, you got father, son, and a fucking ghost. So what else was going on during the 1st century? We see more acculturation of the continent of Africa. Serapis and Isis are gaining in popularity. And within Egypt, the Roman invaders began to represent themselves as pharaohs. So you have foreigners on the throne pretending to be Egyptians. Now, the first Egyptians didn't recognize them as pharaohs. And they didn't like this. So they would go around destroying monuments and statues. That's why you see a lot of Egyptian statues with their noses removed. Because the nose was the dead giveaway that this is not you. This is an African and you're a Roman. So they wanted to be pharaohs, so they basically acculturated the Egyptian culture. They stole their culture, is what I'm saying. And also, while they invaded Egypt, they didn't change much about the culture other than the things that they wanted to change. So it seemed like they had a certain amount of admiration for the Egyptian culture because they kept a lot of things the same, which wasn't common when you invade a land. You usually change everything. But they kept a lot of stuff, and they just changed like dresses and hairstyles and stuff. And over time, Greek and Egyptian cultures merged together. And also within the 1st century, we see the rise of Christianity within Egypt and a large Jewish community in the city of Alexandria. So at this point, we have the Holy Trinity, have popular Egyptian gods that are even popular in the Roman kingdom, and then we have Romans that admire the people that they invaded. Add these 3 components together, and we have a motive to alter the scriptural interpretations so that the Egyptians will be more accepting of their Roman pharaohs that had conquered them. And then you begin to see writings such as that of Romans. Don't you know that all of us who are baptized into Christ Jesus were baptized into his death? We were therefore buried with him through baptism into death. If we have been united with him in a death like his, we will certainly also be united with him in a resurrection like his. Now, Paul, or whoever the writer of Romans was, now uses Zoroastrian concepts of taking part in the triumph of God through a ritual. This was not part of the Jewish religion prior. Paul began reinterpreting the Jewish scriptures. So Paul's interpretation was that Jesus had to be sacrificed because he had to atone for mankind. Well, why did he have to atone for mankind? Because humans were incapable of following the law that Moses had read to them. Well, why were humans incapable of following the law? Because Adam and Eve committed the original sin. Now, understand that this concept that sounds very familiar to you, I'm sure, is a post-interpretation. It wasn't the original meaning of the scripture. This is Paul's post-interpretation of the scriptures after the Greco-Egyptian influences. So Paul basically rewrote the Bible. He basically told all the Jews that had been reading these books for 1,400 years that they didn't know what the fuck they was reading. They wrong, and this is what it really means. He just changed the meaning of it. So let's analyze Paul.
I absolutely love to read books, but honestly, sometimes I just don't feel like it. That's why I'm so grateful that I have a membership with Audible. Now I can have someone read books to me on demand whenever I want. Now I can listen to audiobooks while I'm exercising, cleaning the house, or visiting the royal throne. Sometimes I even like to listen to audiobooks as I fall asleep. It's actually quite relaxing. My Audible membership gives me thousands of books to choose from, which is why I'm recommending it to you. And if you use the link in the description, you can get 2 free audiobooks. That's 2 books of your choice, absolutely free, just for signing up via the link in the description. And you can even give Audible as a gift for someone you care about. Join Audible today.
Interpretations and see if they hold up. Paul said that Adam and Eve's original sin cursed mankind. Well, if Yahweh knew about original sin polluting mankind, then he would have known not to spare Noah. So Noah and his family must have had original sin, since the claim is original sin exists today. They must have had it. So if God is all powerful, he could have just flooded everybody, killed everybody, and created mankind again without original sin. But he didn't do this. So obviously God must not have known about this original sin. What God is all knowing. So how could they have had original sin and God not know about it? His next interpretation says that humans are incapable of obeying the law given to Moses. Now this is refuted by Deuteronomy chapter 30 verse 11, as Moses spoke on behalf of God, saying, "Now what am I commanding of you? Today is not too difficult for you or beyond your reach. The word is very near for you. It is in your mouth and heart, so you may obey it." Paul rewrites this in Romans chapter 10, saying the word is near you. It is in your mouth and heart. That is the message concerning faith that we proclaim. Now notice how Paul omits the part about being capable of following the law. He also said that Jesus was sacrificed to pay atonement for mankind. But this is refuted by 2 Chronicles chapter 7 verse 14. "If my people pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will forgive their sin." Also in Psalm chapter 51 verse 16, "You do not delight in sacrifice, or I will bring it. You do not take pleasure in burnt offerings." Long before Jesus, the Israelites had multiple routes for atonement from God, mainly being prayer and repentance, but not solely sacrifice. But the new version of Christianity needed sacrifice to be the only way for atonement. Why? Because they needed people to believe in Jesus. If you didn't need Jesus, you didn't need the religion. They needed you to need the religion. Now remember, Paul was preaching to Gentiles. Gentiles who were not Jews, thus weren't vast enough to know that Paul was contradicting the early Jewish scriptures. Paul rewrote scriptures in a way that mirrored the religions that he was trying to proselytize to. Now this, I argue, is why most Jews today will get very upset if you call them Christians, and most Christians today don't consider themselves Jewish, because the Old Testament and the New Testament are actually 2 very different ideologies. And if you want proof of this claim, you can read the book The Golden Stool. I posted a free copy on my website, qualitykush.com. This book says, quote, "The other method tries to graft our higher civilization on the soundly rooted native stock bringing out the best of what is in the native tradition and molding it into a form consonant with our modern ideas and higher standards. I also posted a link in the description, so you don't have to look far. Just look in the video description, and I'll take you right to this page where you can read this book for yourself. Now, in 70 CE, we see the destruction of Jerusalem. So why is this significant? After Jerusalem was destroyed, the Romans were free to thwart the scriptures to their pleasing. It's clear that in the book of Acts, Paul and James were in vehement disagreement about Jesus. James said, you must be a Jew in order to be a Christian. Paul says, no, you must only be baptized in order to be a Christian. So if Jesus actually lived, he would have died around 30 CE, 40 years before the fall of Jerusalem. The first gospel wasn't written about Jesus until 15 years after the fall of Jerusalem. Christianity was now something completely separate from Judaism and poised perfectly for spreading to a non-Jewish community with its openness to all and promises of afterlife. The Romans then began spreading Christianity throughout their entire empire. And then we have the appearance of Jesus. Now, the first gospel about Jesus was written around the year 70 CE. And they attribute it to Mark, but Mark was not the person who wrote this. They don't know who actually wrote it. They just attribute it to Mark. So as you see in these scriptures, there is no mention of a nativity scene, no wise men, no virgin birth, nothing. Jesus doesn't become divine in Mark until he gets baptized. All right. So Mark was the first of the four gospels to be written. Jesus appears in Mark as an adult. There's no record of his childhood or birth. Mark chapter 3 verse 21 suggests that people thought Jesus was a crazy person when he preached. If the nativity story actually happened, why would people think Jesus was crazy? They would have expected him to be a little different if he had a real miraculous birth. Now, Jesus is baptized by John the Baptist. Well, why would he need to be baptized if he was already divine? As Jesus is baptized, he, quote, saw heaven being torn open and the Spirit descending upon him. Now, this quote implies that if the Spirit descended upon him, that it wasn't already there. So Jesus doesn't become divine until his baptism. This is known as adoptionism. Now we have Matthew and Luke that was written somewhere around the year 90. The first writings to claim the virgin birth of Jesus, and Jesus is seen as divine from birth. There is no mention of a prior existence of Jesus. So they contradict Mark. But remember, at the time of these writings, Egypt was still being ruled by Rome. Just keep that in mind. And then we have the book of John that was written much, much later, somewhere around 150 CE at the earliest. Could have been much later than that. But I'm being generous over here. The book of John says the last gospels to be written, and the author would have been born about a century after Jesus' death. Yet this book has the most new information about Jesus. It's the farthest from the life of Jesus, but has the most information about Jesus. Jesus in John is seen as divine throughout. Jesus is not baptized nor tested by temptation in the desert in the book of John. I argue that's because John was making shit up. Now you should be able to see how the modern Christian religion was created from a combination of earlier pre-existing religions coupled with Judaism. We have the Assyrian conquest that provided monotheism, the Persian Zoroastrian conquest that provided the devil and the afterlife, and we have the Greco-Roman Egyptian influence that provided the Trinity and the union with God. Now take a look at this map of the early Roman Empire in the 1st century, when Christianity was beginning to spread and the Roman Empire was at its peak. Where are they colonizing? In all the places that are today heavily Christian. So, again, if Christianity was God-given, we would expect it to be given by God. But if it was man-made, we would expect it to be given to us by man. From the looks of this, it looks like Christianity was not only given to us by man, it was perverted by man, changed by man, reinterpreted, rewritten, and given to the African slaves as a means of control.
That you don't understand, then you suffer. Superstition is the
Peace. Peace to the family. Peace and black power to everybody. And no, your eyes have not deceived you. I am devilishly handsome, if I do say so myself. Now, let's get on to tonight's subject. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, let me bring y'all the book of the day. Link is in the description, and it's called Christianity Before Christ by John G. Jackson. Right, nothing is new or original in Christianity. That is the important thesis demonstrated in this book. Least important features, as well as the most important components, were all well developed in cultures that flourished before that time that Christ is alleged to have walked the parched paths of Rome and Palestine. The information presented in this audio book is absolutely crucial if atheists and other free thinkers are to understand the nature of the beast that threatens not only their liberties and rights as citizens in a secular republic, but also threatens to return world civilization itself back to pre-scientific levels of the ancient cultures from which Christianity derived all its odd details. Every atheist needs to know what is inside this book. So it is an audio book. So if you want to read it, you can order it. But if you want to listen to it, you can do so for free when you sign up for Audible. And not only will you get this book for free, but you will get 2 free audiobooks every single month just for signing up. And that link is in the description. So I want to remind everybody that this is a live call-in show and you are free to participate. All you got to do is click that link in the description or call that number and you can join in. And we're supposed to have a couple guests, so we're going to give them some time to get situated and get on. But in the meantime, I want to remind everybody that we do have a live cash raffle that we hold every Sunday night. And what do you know? Today is Sunday night. So if you want to win some money, we got a little bit of cash in the pot already. All you got to do is send $1 to Atheist Church on Cash App. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the computer to randomly select a name from the list. And that person that's selected will receive 100% of the money in the pot. So hence the name reverse collection plate. The church doesn't keep the money. We give it back to somebody who wants or needs it. And usually we have a lot of fun with it. So if you never participated before, I suggest you do so. have a little fun. All right, so let me check on my callers and see if I can bring them in. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back when we get our callers on. Give me a few seconds.
That you don't understand, then you suffer. Superstition ain't the way.
All right, family, we back. And I want to introduce my co-host, Kwame Remesu. Kwame, what's going on, bro?
What it do, YouTube? What it do? Peace to the family, man. How y'all doing out there? You know, why we're stuck on the Bible, man. Mainly black folks, we're basically stuck on the Bible, man, because we think our history started as slavery. That's the problem. You know, you got the Hebrew Christians and then you got the Christian Christians thinking that, oh shit, that's where our history started with the Bible. Not knowing that, you know, that Egypt had an empire long before even slavery existed. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm not saying that there was no other races going enslaving each other at the time, but with us, we have an older empire than that. It boggles my mind that the only history book they do have, or they say is a history book, is the Bible. I was in the clubhouse last night with some Hebrews and stuff like that. They want to say King James is black and the Holy Bible was written by black people. I mean, this is so not true. I mean, you just saw a presentation where it showed you who really orchestrated the Bible. Nice suit, man. You like Vampire in Brooklyn, man.
That's what it is. You know, I had to bring the red out for the whole theme of the atheism thing. I think I'm gonna wear red every week from now on.
Yeah. Hey, I'm still waiting on that merchandise, man. We still haven't got there yet. So,
man, you know what? I forgot all about. I got to check on that shit because I paid for that shit. But if they ain't send me no email or nothing, so if you ain't got it, check with your people at the mailbox and make sure that they haven't come yet, because it should have been came.
Yeah. But yeah, so our glue, you know what I'm saying, to the Bible, our glue to this religion, you know what I'm saying, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, you know, is based on fear. You know what I'm saying? It's fear and hope. You know what I'm saying? And also they had to throw in a boogeyman or villain, super villain in there to keep you grounded in Christianity and you know, Islam or in Judaism, you know, and this hope that you're going to basically be in the 144,000. Now you got to understand there's millions of people on this earth. billions of people. It's like 8 billion people on this earth. And the kingdom said the only people only 144,000 will be in that number to get in. What makes you think you're gonna be in the 144,000? That's your hope. It's just like at the end of the year, Santa Claus gonna bring you some present. You ask Santa Claus for a bike at the mall, and then you're gonna be good from November all the way to Christmas Day, and hoping that you're gonna get that bike. The same thing with Christianity. You think that you think that you're gonna go to heaven when you die, or you think that Jesus is gonna come back in your time. It's this big thing of hope and faith that's got our people glued to this book. Go ahead, bro.
And it's hope, faith, and fear. And a lot of people, like I have conversations with Christians, and they'll say stuff to me that to me is simple, and I don't think it makes sense. Why would you bring that argument up? But I understand that a lot of people just simply never thought about this stuff. They never been asked about this stuff. So what they'll say is, oh, you think they just came up with all this stuff? You saying these people so smart, they just made all this stuff up? Well, that's why I made the video that you saw before this, to let y'all understand that this took centuries. This is thousands of years of people thinking about it, saying, oh, that didn't work. Oh, we got to go do this. You know, they had the Council of Nicaea, the Council of Chalcedon, where all these bishops and priests get together and decide who Jesus is and decide what the doctrine should be. What are we going to teach the people? Well, they had the doctrine that God was going to punish you now. He was going to make you have warts, and he was going to punish your kids and your grandkids. Now they don't say that type of stuff. Now they say you're going to go to hell. Why? Because they realized that the first argument didn't fucking work. Because people can see that shit ain't happening to nobody. It ain't happening to the person who's sinning. He's not getting cursed with all these curses that you said. So they have to make something up that you can't see, that you can't test. Oh, well, you'll see what happened when they die. They're just going to be dead. If you look at it logically, it's so much more simple and it makes so much more sense. It might scare the fuck out you. So if you never seen somebody or anything for that matter die from a fucking crucifixion, a nail in a fucking head, and then come back, you never seen that happen. All you got is this story where it say it happened. And also in that story, you got talking animals, talking donkeys, talking snakes, flying horses, all types of fucking fantasy shit that we don't believe in if it's in any other book. But if you put the word Bible on it, all that fantasy shit all of a sudden becomes true to you. Think about it logically. We ain't even got to get out. I really, honestly, I don't even like dealing with the Bible because I think it perpetuates the importance or the significance of the Bible. I like to throw the shit all out the window. Only time I deal with the Bible really is when I'm dealing with a person who deals with the Bible and they don't want to hear nothing unless it's coming from the Bible. So then I say, okay, I'm gonna use your own Bible against you. And I'm gonna show you that this shit don't make no sense. But generally speaking, we don't even have to go that far. Just think, people. If there was a God that wanted you to know some shit, how would he get it to your brain? How would he give you that information? Is he gonna write a fucking book 2,000 years ago from some motherfuckers who didn't even have a printing press? Or is he gonna put it out on a mass broadcast? Is he gonna write it on the moon or some shit like that where everybody can see it? I mean, if I was a God, you wouldn't have to question me. Trust me. I would let you know exactly what was required of you and exactly what I expected of you. So it's another book called What God Wants by Neil Donald Walsh. And when you read that book, if you a Christian, it'll give you a different way to think about God. And basically the gist of this book, I read it in one sitting because when I first started reading it, it had some ideas in it that I just had never thought about before, and I couldn't put it down. So the whole gist of the book is basically, why the hell would God want something? Think about it. If you Bill Gates and you own every house in your neighborhood, why you want another house in your neighborhood? You already got all the houses. If somebody come and they say, hey man, I'm gonna shack up in the basement in this house in the back of the neighborhood. If you Bill Gates, you probably ain't even got time. You can't live in all the houses. So you probably just say, okay, you in the basement, pay me some rent or some shit. But Bill Gates bought every house in his neighborhood because he don't want to have no neighbors. Because he can afford to do that. So we talking about God. Bill Gates is a fucking man. All right. We talking about a God that owns not the neighborhood, but the whole universe, all neighborhoods, all galaxies, all stars. He owns everything. What could he want from you, little boy, you who live on Earth?
And why does he need you to do his work? And why does God need you to do his work?
He's all powerful.
For a man, for something that made the whole entire universe, suns, you know what I'm saying, and moons and planets. He needs you to work for him. Like, what kind of temp service is God running? You know what I'm saying? The temp service that God got going on, man.
Yeah, that just blows my mind. Like, we got that rapper Lil Nas X been in the news lately because he got an album coming out. You know, when rappers have albums coming out, they start tripping. So that's their publicity. So basically, it's been a debate going on as to say, well, should Lil Nas X be saying the things that he's saying and doing the stuff that he's doing? When half of the people saying he going against God, but another half of the people saying he doing God's work. And at that point, how do you know who's right? Because it's come down to a matter of opinion. Is which God are we even talking about? The Christian God? Because if we go to Sri Lanka,
we talking about the Most High.
What Lil Nas X is doing because he ain't part of their religion. So,
No, we talking about the Most High.
Yeah, that's a cop out too. So that's another thing that people got to understand. These tricks that religious clergymen have played on your brain. They don't even call God by his name. Why don't they call God by his name? Because they don't want people to be able to refute it. If you say Yahweh don't exist, they're gonna say, well, I ain't talking about Yahweh, I'm talking about the real God. If you say Vishnu don't exist, they're gonna say, well, I ain't talking about Vishnu, I'm talking about the real God. But that's like saying dad or mom. It's a title. It's not an actual person. Just even the Satan, that means adversary. It not somebody's name, Satan. So if you do the research and you do the history, you realize that these are titles. They remove the names from the titles to make it loose so that they can be loose with what they say to you. If they have to pin down and say, okay, Satan is this person here, and then we can go and say, well, we don't see this person in history. They don't want you to do that. So they just say Satan, and everybody got this idea of Satan being this evil energy that exists. And anything bad that happened, we're going to blame it on the devil. Anything good that happened, we're going to give credit to God. Just like I asked the lady that was on when we had Atheist N.E.W 2 episode. I asked her, do you, like, because she said, I know God did this for me. I couldn't do it by myself. I said, okay, do you give credit to God for the bad stuff that happened to you? Or you say that, oh, that's just stuff that happened. Oh, that's the devil who did that. And how would you know? You the dumb motherfucker that go to surgery, get treatment, get medication, and then thank God when you get healed. Don't think none of the people who was working on you, but you think this imaginary motherfucker who ain't did a bitch ass thing, but you gonna say he was working through those people, even though you don't have no evidence of it. But if somebody break in your house, go upside your head with a baseball bat and take all your shit, you're not gonna say God was working through him. You're gonna automatically attribute it to some other motherfucker. But if somebody busts in your house and just bestow $1 million cash on the floor, you're gonna say, oh, God was working through them. Yeah, I understand what I'm saying. You deciding who to give credit to. And anything good, you say God done it. Anything bad, you say the devil done it. When you don't have no evidence of who the culprit was. If I say Sue shot Sally, does that mean that Sue shot Sally? Because I said it? No, it don't. You have to have actual evidence. That's why the police and the court systems require evidence to convict somebody. You could be guilty as all get out. But if there is no evidence against you, you ain't going to jail.
And not only that, Quayla, you got to give us a description of Sue. You know what I'm saying? Hey, police, Sue had stringy hair and white feet. That's the description I got. The one that shot Sally had stringy hair and white feet.
You know what I'm saying? Between the height of 4 feet and 10 feet.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, could be fucking anybody.
That's how so they say
that's
Jesus
what they
black.
do with God. They don't even have a description of God. So they say God done this, but they can't even tell you what the motherfucker looked like. So not only did they not witness it, but nobody witnessed it. They can't tell you what the person who witnessed it said because there is no person who witnessed it. They just run around saying Sue shot Sally. And then guess what? The police show up and they say, where is Sue? Who is Sue? What, you know what I'm saying? Everybody got a different answer. Sue is a all-knowing, omniscient being. It goes around shooting people. And then another motherfucker say Sue is my high school teacher. Another motherfucker say Sue is my sister.
and we ask them, well, what does this person look like? And they can't tell you what
I
Sue
would
look
date
like, but
her
they
daddy.
telling you,
You
they
know
swearing
what
up and
I'm
down that
saying?
Sue shot Sally. Sue shot Sally, but they can't tell you nothing. They got no evidence, no DNA, no fingerprint, no murder weapon. Like
Not
these
even a
are
good
all things
description.
that are required if you're gonna make a claim. You have to have some type of evidence. Now, it's different types of evidence that you can have. You can have good evidence, you can have bad evidence, or weak evidence, strong evidence. You can have a lot of evidence, you can have a little evidence. But in order to make a claim, you generally have to have some type of evidence. You can't just say Sue shot Sally. That don't hold no fucking weight. You know, if you go to court and you ain't got no evidence and you just saying stuff, you know what they call that? Hearsay.
Yeah.
So the Bible
Case
is the big book
dismissed.
of hearsay. Bible is the big
This
book of
is
hearsay.
prophecy, man. There's prophecy going on right now that's in the Bible. That's what they say.
Exactly. But
They
then,
want to
but
claim that
as
the
as the
COVID-19 is
atheists,
in the
what we
Bible.
do,
I said,
we
show
come
me
up and we
where.
say, well, where's the evidence?
Exactly.
They
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 want to
never
allude
have
to
the
some
evidence.
kind of famine or war scripture that's been going on for ages. They want to allude to that. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? When they even use the road to Damascus. I mean, not road to Damascus. Yeah, Damascus is supposed to be not inhabitable no more, but you got 2 million people that live there. Like, come on, your prophecies fail, people. For you Israelites, Nicolaites that believe in this book, y'all have no clear prophecy of COVID-19. They have no clear prophecy of 9/11. They try to put 9/11 in the Bible. I'm like, damn, the Bible, come on, man. Don't you think God would have don't you think God being all knowing would know how he can basically make his prophecies clear versus, you know what I'm saying, somebody just interpreting a scripture as if it's prophecy? They gotta be, come on, man.
Exactly. So this is the problem that we have with Christianity. So why can't we let go of the Bible? When I say we, I'm talking about we as a people, not me and Kwame, because I threw the Bible away a long time ago. But why
I
we
shot
as
the
a
Bible.
people, why we as a people can't let go of the Bible? And the answer is, well, it's complicated because first of all, people are afraid to not believe because they've been told that if you don't believe, you're going to hell. And it's indoctrination. So from a childhood, these ideas have been put in your head. But if something is not true, how can so many people believe it? And the answer is consistent reinforcement. You have to go to church every fucking week to believe this stuff or have somebody around you constantly reinforcing this into you. You know what I'm saying? If I say Sue shot Sally and I just leave it at that, 10 years from now, you ain't gonna be thinking that Sue shot Sally. But if I say Sue shot Sally and I come back the next week, hey, you remember Sue shot Sally? And I come back the next week, hey, remember Sue shot Sally? After a while, you ain't gonna be able to forget it. Cause you're like, damn, I've been hearing this shit 52 times a year, every fucking year. You 30 years old.
Mhm.
So that's why we can't let go of the Bible because it's been reinforced so much, but that don't make it true. And that's the reason why, even after 2,000 years, everybody's not a Christian. If the shit was true, I mean, you should see some leaning towards it. Let's take evolution for example. Some people don't believe evolution is true, but guess what happened? The theory came out. Everybody said it was bullshit except a few scientists, but over time, more and more people began to accept it as true. Why? Probably because it is true, and when you do the actual research, you will find out it makes so much sense, and it's been proven through fossil records, DNA records, geological distribution of species. A lot of ways you can prove that evolution is in fact true. All species are related, whether y'all like it or not. Humans are not special. We just simply at the top of the food chain because we got thumbs and brains. That's it. But it's a lot of animals that can do stuff that we can't do, and they probably gonna pass us considering the way we behave with each other. You know what I'm saying? We put ourselves as things. Humans haven't even been around that long in a big scale of time. Crocodiles and sharks been around for millions of years. Humans been around for thousands of years. So we could go extinct really any given day. And as far as time is concerned, because time is billions of years, not these 50, 60 years that we live and talk about. And people have a hard time understanding that. But what happens when something is true? It holds weight. People can't refute it. Nobody been able to disprove evolution. It's a million people right now that'll tell you they can prove that your religion is fake. And I don't care what religion you got. I'm the one that's gonna tell you it's all bullshit. But there's a lot of people that will tell you their religion is true, but your religion is bullshit. Even though their reasons for believing their religion are the same reasons that you give for believing your religion. So let's pick on Christianity because I like to pick on you Christians because y'all so sensitive and easy to fuck with. If
Yeah,
Jesus
and
came
the
back from the
Nicodemus
dead,
too.
then we would have some evidence of that. So what's the evidence that Jesus actually came back from the dead? What's the evidence that Sue shot Sally? I said it. What's the evidence that Jesus came back from the dead? Somebody in the Bible said it. But it gets even worse because in the Bible, we can't even talk to these motherfuckers. We can't even interrogate them and say, yo, what about this part? What about that part? They dead now. The people, and if they was alive, they don't even got the real authors on the books. They got Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. These people didn't write those books. They just put their name on it. So we can't even interrogate and scrutinize the evidence. We can't interrogate the witnesses. All we got is a book that says there's witnesses, which is even worse than somebody saying Sue shot Sally and just leaving it at that and can't even tell you what Sally looked like or how they know. They're just gonna make a empty claim. So did Jesus come back from the dead? Well, what we know about this claim, we know that if he did, it was the only time in history that this happened. And generally speaking, things don't just happen once. Something happens in the universe, it's probably going to happen a few times at least, sometimes over and over and over again. The only thing that we know that happened once, and I argue that it didn't happen once, it's just our limited knowledge of it, is the beginning of life on earth. Life began on earth, but that's something that's not like once life began, it's not needed to begin again. That don't make no sense. But if you live in a universe where people coming back from the dead, I would expect it to happen like more than once. If Jesus felt the need to, of God or Jesus felt the need to come down to earth back then, you mean to tell me he can't find nothing that he need to come down here and do now? Nothing needs done. All these preventable diseases that are killing people in other countries, all these motherfucking manufactured diseases that's killing people around the world, all the crime and lies that's going on, all the people in the church that's scamming the people because you got Christians that's against the church. And if you actually read your Bible, Jesus was against the church. He didn't like church. He went to church one time and turned that bitch out. Said, all y'all motherfuckers fake as shit. But you Christians still claiming to follow Jesus and going to church. And another quip I got with you Christians, y'all don't even call the motherfucker by his real name. Y'all ain't got the decency to call him by his real name. I would feel offended if I was your Jesus, because there was no letter J on the face of the earth until the late 16th century. So whoever this motherfucker was, he wasn't no Jesus. His name would have been something else. And the fact that you just gonna change this nigga name arbitrarily to suit you means that you either weak-minded and you just do what everybody else do, probably, or you are so inconsiderate and disrespectful that you would call your own God something that he ain't tell you to call him. Even if it is true, you dead ass wrong. But I digress.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I you know what I'm saying, that's why I keep asking when I'm in the clubhouse. Yeah, I'm laughing at what Sharon said. Sharon said there's hear about 11 newborn babies died and they fired in the hospital. Guess God would just watch. God just watched. I said, no, God was just busy drinking and watching the Detroit and Buffalo game. So, so that's basically what God was doing. You know, but yeah, you know, the name of God, you know, it's always called the Most High because you know what, I'm getting a theory, you know, what I'm saying, on why they do that, and you kind of tapped in a little bit of that too. But I think it's because if you do give a name, like you said, then we can go back and find. Wait, excuse me, I'm so sorry. We can go back and find if that God really exists. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the Most High Creator. You know what I'm saying? So he got a name, they just don't want to say it. Or like my mama do. God, I said, what's God's name? I am that I am. You know what I'm saying? You know.
I don't
So
understand how people don't get that I am stuff. That's just like it's a smart aleck response. If somebody say, what's your name? You say, my name is my name. That's pretty much saying, get the fuck out my face. You know what I'm saying? I'm not
mm,
answering your question. Where you going? I'm going where I'm going. Fuck you worry about it for. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But go ahead though.
But yeah, you know what I'm saying. It's a way for them to kind of cling onto their beliefs, and they don't. I guess it's just like they. I don't know how I'm trying to put it because I've been dealing with this all weekend on the club. If y'all ever get a chance, download that Clubhouse app. It's so fucking funny. But when we was like yesterday, we were doing rehearsal for the Bible Comedy Hour, right? Oh man, you should have seen all them Hebrews come in, all the Christians come in. Oh, I wish it was on this show, bro. I'm telling you, I wish they would do that on the show, what they did to my live stream last night. Man, it was so funny. And we kept asking that question. We kept asking, was the Bible inspired? They said yes, it was inspired. Then one of my friends, atheist friends, asked, do you believe that man is flawed? And they were like, yes. I said, well, how do you know a flawed man can write a book that's basically true? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like their cognitive dissonance is basically screwing with them. You know what I'm saying? It's like they feel like it's not that they believe so wholeheartedly. It's like it's the fact that they're afraid not to believe. They think the fall is 90 feet when it's only 2 inches. They think the fall from grace is 90 feet when it's only 2 inches.
I wouldn't even call it a fall from grace. I would call it a rise from grace because I know you probably feel the same way that after you stop believing in that stuff, you felt freer. You could think and things made more sense. A lot of questions they used to ask, like, damn, why God didn't intervene in this? Why God allowed this stuff to happen? Well, if God don't exist, that explains that pretty much 100% solid. That's why God ain't doing shit because there is no God. You know what I'm saying? And when you go talk to the people, the powers that be, as they say, most of those people don't believe in this bullshit. If you don't believe that they don't believe it, look at the media that they put out. If people actually
Exactly.
believed in God and this Christianity shit, this shit would be so different. So you have to get reinforced to that shit. But to your point, what you were saying, I think that not only are they afraid not to believe, but they invested in it. So you were speaking with Captain Tazariak this weekend. I hope he called in. If you're watching
Yeah,
Tazariak,
he got the
call in.
information and everything.
But I'm gonna pick on Tazariak for a little second because he have invested in his religion. So for him, it's very difficult for somebody in his position to admit this is all bullshit. Damn, I've been leading these people down the wrong path because that's his bread and butter. He can't just come out and say, "Oh, I was wrong about that." For me, I don't hold no belief to my heart. So if somebody come and tell me, "Hey, you know you was wrong about this," I can say, "Word, oh, appreciate that." I can actually thank them. Thank you for showing me I was wrong. But if you go to a religious person or preacher or somebody who's on YouTube professing this religion as truth, and you say, "Hey, you know you was wrong about that," he cannot, in his position, admit being wrong because that would be the end of his whole shebang. Have to delete the channel, have to close the church or something like that. And if you making a living off of it, shit, that's your job gone. So they have to keep on going. So even Ray Hagan said that, these preachers, they know this stuff is bullshit, but a lot of them cannot come out and tell everybody that this is bullshit because they don't have any other skills. They don't know how to do it. They've been preaching since they were 18 or 20 or something, and now they 45, 50, and they don't know how to do nothing else. So they have to go up there every Sunday and preach the same shit over and over again, which, by the way, folks, if you've been studying the same book for 15, 20 years and you ain't learned nothing new in the last 5 years, you might want to get a new book because ain't no other class that take that damn long to master and you ain't getting no new information. It don't take 4 years to get a degree. Why you ain't got a degree in Christianity yet? You been going to church your whole goddamn life? And you let an atheist tell you something about the Bible that you didn't know? Shame on you. Shame on you. That's how you get out of that stuff. You actually read the shit. A lot of people don't actually read it. But there is I think it's called the Clergy Project, where it's basically an anonymous online board of preachers that don't believe the shit that they preaching. And they go on there and they converse about it. So if you don't believe that shit that I'm saying, I was just saying, if you don't believe what I'm saying, you can just go look it up. The Clergy Project. These preachers do not believe the shit that they preaching to y'all. But go ahead, Kwame.
No, I remember it's the same thing. Like, remember I was saying I was going to Jarvis Christian College to be a minister, and then I was the one that was asking so many questions, and that's when the minister came and pulled me out, made me stay out the class, and he was asking me, does he was telling me that it doesn't resonate with me, and he was telling me that he said, yeah, this stuff is basically allegorical story. It's theology, meaning it's a study of God. You know what I'm saying? Study of religion, right? So he gave me that book, 16 Crucified Saviors. You know what I'm saying? That book been out for a minute. You know what I'm saying? So that book was out a long time. And when he gave me that book, that's when I deconverted quickly because I had no fear to see. I didn't have nothing to go off of. Yes, I mean I had questions, but I was also scared not to believe. You know what I'm saying? Until I got that book. When I got that book, you know what I'm saying, it made me realize how the devil came about. You know what I'm saying, and how all these other deities were anthropomorphized as elements of nature. You know what I'm saying? And most of them are. Even Jesus is the sun. Jesus called himself the bright morning star as well as the devil. You know what I'm saying? So he's the son of the morning. You know what I'm saying? The S-U-N. Come on now. So when I realized that, it was easy for me to deconvert. And once these Christians look at something different other than their Bible, then it'll be easy for them to deconvert. But like I said, like last night, I had Cesario came into my live at Clubhouse, and I was asking him hard questions. And I got Captain Cesario, and this is for all you Hebrews out there that's listening. Y'all are related to the white man according to the Bible, because if Jacob and Esau have the same mama and daddy, the white man is your brother biologically. Tazariak says it, not me. Tazariak said it in front of all his Hebrews. Because when Tazariak come to the clubhouse, he gonna bring a following. Just like if he come to the show tonight, you're gonna have like 100, 200 people in your live, right? For real. He's gonna bring his class. That's what he did in my life.
I hope so, man. But what I want them to do is tell me how they decide what's allegorical and what's not allegorical. Because for me to read something like that, I would think it would have to be allegorical. Because how the fuck parents, two people, man and woman, have children of different races? One on black, one on white, one on Asian. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
How that work? If that's not a metaphor or allegory, then you got to explain that one to me. You know what I'm saying? If that's an allegory, then how I know the whole fucking book ain't allegory? Why am I reading some of this stuff let me rephrase that. Why are y'all reading some of this stuff as fact and some of this stuff as allegory? I think the stuff that they can claim is fact and they can argue, they just say it is fact. And the stuff that they know they can't argue, they just gonna say, oh, it's allegory. That mean I can't reconcile that one, man. But it's got to be a metaphor because it makes no fucking sense. But actually, the whole fucking book don't make no damn sense. It makes sense if you look at it as a weapon, a tool of oppression that's created to keep people in line when the government can't. Then it makes sense. But in the sense of how religious people believe it as some sort of salvation and hope, it's not doing that. It's not doing its job. Look at the black community. If you live in a black neighborhood, try this experiment tomorrow when you on your way to work or school or wherever you go on Mondays. Count the churches that you see. Just count them. Just count them. And you gonna be like, God damn, it's that many churches over here. It's more churches than any fucking thing. And the neighborhood is this fucked up. If the religion was so good, how are the most religious people, the people that adhere to it the most, doing the worst? Maybe because it's not good. Maybe because it is a tool of oppression and a weapon that's meant to keep you right where you at. Maybe that's why the slave masters used to allow slaves to practice their religion. If it was Christianity, but you ain't finna practice no African religion over here that's really gonna probably, bring you back to your spirituality that you started with and keep y'all unified. No, y'all can't do that. But our religion, oh yeah, go preach that. Here you go, Nat Turner. Go preach this to the people, but don't read this part. Read them this part right here, and I'm gonna sit here and watch and make sure that you read them the part I want you to read. That's why Nat Turner went off. You know what I'm saying? But the Hebrew is going to say, oh no, the Bible inspired him to go off. No, the nigga smartened up. He realized, man, y'all using me to keep my people enslaved. So he started a revolt. You know what I'm saying? Not because of the Bible, but because of the fact that they were using the Bible to keep them people enslaved. The Bible ain't nothing but a big book of slavery, or the big a slave's guide to the universe, as I like to call it. You know what I'm saying? The Bible. If you believe it, you buy bull. So why can't we get out of that, people? Fear indoctrination, and then cognitive dissonance, and a lack of will to actually look into the shit. Look into the shit. I don't understand how people can believe something so wholeheartedly that they haven't researched at all. You ain't verified it for yourself. So you don't know it. You know what I'm saying? It's already, it can be argued that you can't know anything to 100% certainty, but you can get as close as you can to the 100%. That don't mean you shouldn't try to know something. If you just gonna take any old claim, if that's the case, everybody will be locked up for murder, because anybody could just show up and say this person did this. They used to do that in the past. They had witch hunts. Your religion, Christians, killed innocent women under auspice that they were witches. They would say, if you a witch, then you will float when we throw you in the water. If you drown, then we know you're not a witch. But guess what? If you was a witch, they was gonna kill you, and if you're not a witch, you're gonna drown. So basically, anybody that they decided was going to be tried to be a witch was sentenced to death. And all it took was for somebody to say, "Bitch, a witch. That bitch put a curse on me. That bitch, she put a spell on me or whatever." And they'll come in and do the witch test on you, which kills you. So this is your religion that's going out doing this stuff with no evidence. So these are the type of people that y'all have stood on their shoulders. Y'all stood on the shoulders not of giants, but of little people that believed in things without evidence. And we know
Like I
that
said before,
that's not a good way to go about life. You know what I'm saying?
and like I said before, to these are to the Hebrews and the Christians. If this is a black religion, if Christianity is black, then why is white people using it as their spirituality? And here's another killer. If and this is what kills it too. Why is America copying Egypt and not the Israelite culture? Because they ain't had nothing to copy. They ain't had nothing but the goddamn desert. Yes, the America's gonna have the eagle, well, Haru. Yes, they're gonna have the Tekanuf and the Washington Monument. They copying a civilization that's worth copying. You know what I'm saying? And the only you mean to tell me the only thing they copied from the Israelites was a book? Come on, man.
And you know, a lot of people think because I changed my name to Coily, and we talk about Egypt a lot, that I got some type of love relationship with ancient Egypt. It's just simply the fact of the matter that this is the first civilization on the earth, the first place on earth where you could say was civilized, and the public will have you think that Africa don't have nothing to offer. Africa is just a wild place, you know what I'm saying? And it's just not true. So I'm interested in it, and I happen to be black, so I got some vested interest in it. But I'm not one of these people that's gonna be like, oh, you got to follow the Kemetic sciences and all that, because that people just gonna try to find a reason not to. They're gonna say, well, that's a religion too, and all that stuff. But I like to take it to the simplest concept that we could take it to. Why should I believe your religion? Furthermore, why should I believe that there is some God that I haven't seen, you know, or heard or talked to, when the person on the other side of the world believes in a different God that they haven't seen or talked to? It's starting to look like all these God claims are full of shit, and they got an expiration date. We no longer believe in Zeus, Thor, Hercules. All these were gods at one point. The Greek gods, Serapis, Ptolemy. We don't believe in these beings to be gods. And guess what's gonna happen to Jesus and Yahweh? Don't believe me? Look at any movie that depicts the future, because Hollywood has sneaked some shit into their movies. Look at any movie. I don't care what the name of the movie is, when it was made. Any movie that's depicting like a future civilization, they always are atheists. Always. And there's not one movie that got Christianity and they took place in the year 3000 something, or they traveled to the
Shit,
future. The
Terminator.
further you
Terminator
go,
was a movie of atheism.
anything from the future, there is no religion, because they know in the future all this shit it's already going away. It's happening already. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm ahead of the curve. So you might think that the religion is popular and atheism is not popular, but in the future it's the other way around. Just like in the past, motherfuckers was cutting people's heads off and sacrificing virgins. Now we know that doesn't do any good, so they don't do that no more. Now people are sitting on their hands and knees praying to the wall. In the future, they're gonna realize that shit don't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's a waste of time. All they do is divide us and separate us. You know what I'm saying? So religion, that's religion's job, to keep everybody separate, worrying about the wrong thing. And it was a lady, by her, I think her username on YouTube is Bright Eyes. She called in a couple months ago, and she was saying like, this all is just a waste of time. We should be worrying about how to invent something or how to build something, not what the religion is. But that's the whole point of this show. That's the whole point of this show, is to teach people that this conversation is a waste of fucking time. Hopefully, if we do our jobs right, we won't have to come on here no more, because it will be pointless, because everybody would already know this stuff. But until then, we doing a disservice to the people, because every Sunday they getting reinforced Jesus, 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 or goddamn the Hebrew Israelites, which ain't nothing but a bunch of black racists that think that it's okay for Hebrew Israelites to go and rob and kill other people, but they ain't gonna do it to their own people, and they demean women and all types of shit. So not only is it keeping us separate, but it's teaching you stuff that's not beneficial for you. You know what I'm saying? Like Tazariak is on the record saying he hate Africans. How the fuck a black man gonna say he hate Africans when you are one? Oh, because in his mind he ain't African. In his mind he an Israelite, and that's the fucking problem. Because white people don't behave like that. You know what I'm saying? Like they just white people. But black people want to say, "Oh, where you from? Where you from? Oh, I'm from the east side. I'm from the west side." And then how about you just be black? Because these motherfuckers, they pull you over, they don't care where you from. You black. When you go to jail and them skinheads get on your ass, they don't give a fuck where you from. You black. So that's the team you on, but they got it in your mind that you can pick and choose subdivisions and subsets of your team, and that's why black people in America are in the diaspora that they in, where they spend more money than, as a group, they spend more money than everybody, but they ain't got shit for themselves. You know what I'm saying? So you shouldn't hate Africans, Tazariak. You should hate African Americans and motherfuckers who separate them, like Hebrew Israelites in any religion.
Hey, you got Taz's number too, don't you? I gave it to you.
Oh yeah, I got his number.
Right. Yeah, we just wait because he said he don't know that he's gonna,
But I figure, like, you know what I'm saying, once you reach out to somebody, you tell them, yo, we're gonna be live on this time. If they want to come on, they're gonna come on. If they don't, they don't. But at the end of the day,
I think he knew what he was getting himself into though. Because I told him you're not. Yeah, I think he knew.
I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. So if you come on here, just know I'm always gonna be respectful to anybody that come on my show. But because we get cussed out all the time, where niggas be calling us all types of names and shit. But I understand that these people hold this stuff dear to their heart. So when you tell somebody that something that they believe in is not true, they get upset. They take offense to it. It's almost like telling your friend that they breath stink, even though you're trying to help them. They're gonna take offense to it. They're gonna take it as an insult. But once they come back and realize, like a few days later, damn, I'm glad they told me that, but didn't let me walk into the club without this gun, because man, if you weren't my friend, I'd have been embarrassed. I ain't know, you know what I'm saying? Somebody that's really your friend gonna let you know, hey man, you fucking up. Hey, that shit that you believe in is not helping the community. If you really care about helping the community, let that shit go. You know what I'm saying? But I don't like just making claims, because that put me on the same level as them. I like to show people or ask them epistemology questions to lead them to their own conclusion. Is that how you know this? How do you know that? Where you get that from? And they realize they didn't get it from nowhere. It's hearsay. They was told this at an age that when they were so young that they brain literally couldn't scrutinize it.
And I want to talk to you. And you're right, because Captain Cesariak's following is mostly 20-year-olds. Like the lady in the, like Jay, the dude named Jay that was on there, he's 25, and the young lady, she's 24. So Tazariak following is a bunch of young people. Now, General Yohana, they all old niggas and shit like that. But Tazariak is going to these prisons and reaching out to these young people. He's not going to people, a 30-year-old with a mind. You know what I'm saying? He's getting them when they're young, when they just fresh out of high school and shit, when their mind is still impressionable. Their mind is still geared to learn. See what I'm saying? So that's what Tazariak is doing.
And that's like generally speaking, like Hebrew, if you're going to be a Hebrew Israelite, right? That's just basically a different version of Christianity. So most people in our country get Christianity forced on them. So if you're gonna start to realize, wait a minute, some of this stuff don't add up, and then somebody show up with this Hebrew Israelite doctrine, it can sound convincing to you to say, oh shit, you know, all this stuff in the Bible, they really talking about black people, they talking about you, these your people, man, and all this stuff, and it empower you for a minute and make you think, oh shit, I'm special. Oh, this is about my people. But when you analyze that information, you realize, wait a minute. Y'all don't have no reason to believe this, just like they ain't had no reason to believe that. I ain't in no better of a position, and it's still not doing what it's supposed to do. It still ain't saving people. If your religion worked, everybody in your religion, or 75% of everybody in your religion, should be doing better than pretty much everybody else in the world. Because you got the true religion, you got a conduit to God. How are you in the same diaspora as a motherfucker that's an atheist? How we got the same problems and the same trials and tribulations? Tell me something that an atheist go through that a Christian don't, or the Christian go through that an atheist don't. What makes them different? The difference is the atheist is not going to blame what happens to him on an invisible force that he ain't never seen before. And if he in a fucked up situation, he going to do this. A Christian gonna blame all the shit that they can't see on steps that happen to them. On if it's bad, they're gonna say the devil did it. If it's good, they're gonna say God done it. And when they get into a bad situation, they're gonna do this. God, please, please. And they don't use that brain. Well, if there is a God, which there ain't, but if there was a God that made you, he gave you a brain, use it. That's probably what he wants you to do with it. That he gave it to you. So use it. Stop doing this and praying to the fucking wall. You know why I stopped? When I stopped praying, I wouldn't even call myself an atheist, but I stopped praying. I used to pray every time I got into a car. And I got pulled over so many times. It's like the police just love to pull me over. I don't know if it's me or if every young black man get pulled over that much, but it's like I couldn't fucking fart in my own car without getting pulled over. And I ain't doing it. Ain't like I'm out here fucking around. You know, I ain't doing nothing illegal. Nothing illegal. I get pulled over. The other cops show up to the scene and say, why you pull him over in the first place? And these niggas lie. Oh, he had a busted tail. Like, it ain't busted. Why you pull the motherfucker over in the first place? It got you out there for 2 hours and shit, questioning you, and you ain't done nothing wrong. And I done prayed that I wouldn't get pulled over. Now, before I got in the car, I'm praying. Lord, please don't let these fucking police, all that. I pray that I'm gonna make it to my destination safely, man. I almost fucking died in the car accident, and I prayed that I would make it to my destination safely. So prayer does not work. I know from experience it does not work. And they tested it scientifically and proved that it don't work. It works at a rate of chance, pure chance, rolling the dice. You know what I'm saying? It's like a motherfucker saying they good at shooting dice. I figure, how are you good at something that's random? Unless you cheating. Unless you cheating. You know what I'm saying? It's a random game. You can't be good at it, nigga. That's why they call it gambling.
Yeah, you know. Hey man, that's a good man. We should call this the Atheist Rant Show right now because we ranting about some shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and I got on them nigga brews. I said, man, you mean to tell me you rather trade a motherfucking desert that you can barely grow orange, you can't even grow grass over there for a continent with all the minerals and all the resources? You mean to tell me that dry desert ass land with a bunch of snakes and scorpions and shit is better than Africa? What resources can you find over there in fucking Israel that you can't find in Africa? You can't find shit over there. Y'all think y'all want that land so fucking bad? It's not even funny, man. You know what I'm saying? Everything you use, cars, all the metals and gold and stuff, where does it come from? It don't come from Israel. You see what I'm saying? So that's sad that y'all rather trade a motherfucking desert. You know what I'm saying? For you rather trade Africa for a goddamn wasteland. They ain't got nothing but trash and shit all over the goddamn place. Come on now.
Fucking war-torn country, man. War-torn country. But all that stuff spring from this religion. So basically my understanding of what Christianity is over the years is a group of people, small group of people, small tribe called the Israelites had a religion and they used it against their own people. Keyword against their own people. They used this religion to keep people in check, keep people behaviors aligned with the laws of the land, right? Over time, these ideas changed because these people got conquered by other people and they put some of their beliefs on top of these beliefs. You know what happens when a nation conquers another nation? They intermingle. You know what I'm saying? They mix with each other. They have sex with each other, and their offspring become mixed, and their ideas get mixed. And it ain't just overnight. This is over centuries, hundreds of years. And then it happened again. Those people get conquered. Then it happened again. Those people get conquered. Then they might go conquer some more people. So by the end, you got something that don't look nothing like what it started with. But when the Hebrew Israelites get a hold of it, they like to pretend like none of that stuff happened, and all this stuff that we got in the end has been here from the beginning, and they talking about black people. But let me ask you, like, if you go to Israel, you don't see African looking people there. All these Hebrew Israelites look like Africans to me, but when you check the science of okay, where did life start on Earth? Everybody knows it started in Africa, not in Israel. So if God was going to have a chosen people, don't you think they would be where where he put them the first time he made people? Why would he make people and then choose these new Johnny come lately motherfuckers from little small Canaan that get their ass kicked historically, fucking fall off the face of the earth? That's why they call them the lost tribe. Like they don't look like it was God given. You know what I mean? The only reason Christianity spread so much is because the Romans forced it on everybody that they was colonizing when the Rome was the military power of the world. At one point in time, it was Egypt. One point in time, it was Great Britain. One point in time, it was Rome. Today, it's America. But it's always one country that's stronger militarily than all the other countries, and they kind of bully all the other countries like America does now. They got bases in this country, bases in that country, military bases in somebody else's country. You know, so that's like somebody coming to your house and be like, "This is my room." What? Oh yeah, y'all can have your house, but this is my room. But this is my room right here. That's what these folks doing. And that's what the Romans was doing back then. And not only was they spreading they government, they were spreading their religion. So you will see a mixed god like Serapis, which was a Greek and an Egyptian god. The Greeks introduced the Grecos and Romans. They was in cahoots with each other because the Greeks had invaded Rome. So Greco-Rome had invaded Egypt, and they started mixing their religion with this religion. And that's when you see the rise of the Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, because Egypt had these concepts. Christianity did not. But after a few thousand years in Egypt, now Christianity got a concept of a Trinity. How that happened? It wasn't there in the beginning of the religion, but it's there after they go to Egypt. That's because acculturation, the same process that gave you the concept of good and evil when the Persians invaded Babylon, and they got the concept of a holy war between good and evil, and good was supposed to win in the end, which evidence suggests that good does not win as much as evil does, sadly. You know what I'm saying? If we playing Monopoly and I cheat, I probably gonna win. As long as I don't get caught. You know what I'm saying? So evil don't always lose and good don't always prevail. If you don't believe me, look at the state of America. I mean, we call this shit the land of the free, but we lead in incarceration in the world. We got the highest number of people in prison in the fucking world, but they call this shit the land of the free. It's not the land of the free. It's the land of the incarcerated. But everybody wants to pretend like it's the land of the free. So if you look at the shit for what it actually is, you start to understand stuff. And you start to realize, okay, this shit ain't true. That shit ain't true. But beware now, because some of y'all take that shit too far. Some of y'all saying, oh, everything that I ever heard ain't true. Oh, I can't believe nothing. The earth is flat. The sun is a crystal ball and all this shit. Like, nah, nigga. Some of the stuff you can prove. That's why I brought up evolution. Like, you ain't got to believe in evolution. That's why people ask, do you accept evolution? Because it's a fucking fact. You ain't got to believe it. If you look at the evidence and stop being so fucking arrogant and think you already know something, then you will find out that it's true. You know what I mean? And you can't argue with it. Can't argue with truth. If I say Sue shot Sally, and then I ain't just say Sue shot Sally. I showed up with the murder weapon, and you can test the bullet and see through a ballistics test that the bullet in Sally's head came from a gun that was registered to Sue. Sue has no alibi for the time of the murder, and I got 3 people that said they saw Sue shot Sally, and then fiber from Sue's car was found at the murder scene at Sally's house. All of these are called evidences, and one of them alone might be considered weak, but all of them together, we can pretty much conclude that Sue probably did shoot Sally. But if I just say Sue shot Sally, that's not good enough. And then Sue say, no, I was at work at the time. And then we look at the surveillance camera and we see she was at work. Well, now we know for a fact through evidence that Sue did not shoot Sally. So the same way, a cop don't have to be there, because people ask me dumb questions like, were you there when the earth was created? How you know God didn't create it? Were you there? I don't got to be there. I'm looking at the evidence. Was the cop there when Sue shot Sally? No, nobody was fucking there. But you know what they do? They look at the evidence and they can determine exactly what happened for the most part. If you ever seen CSI or some shit, they can tell you this motherfucker came in the door, he hit his head, and he fell over here, and that's this blood splatter from here because the killer was shooting from this angle, but he was left-handed.
Exactly.
They tell you all this shit, and nobody was there. Nobody was fucking there. But the evidence tells you the story. The same way we know evolution is true. The evidence tells us all of human life is related, and it all springs back, and it is just like it's clear cut and proven when you look at the evidence. Just like your cop can determine who shot somebody, and nobody saw it, and the motherfucker sitting there lying saying I ain't do it, I wasn't here, but the evidence says that you lying. All right, so you got to put evidence to play in your religion and in your life and in all these other bullshit beliefs that y'all have, and I know y'all got them because I used to have them too. The crystals, the goddamn law of attraction, the spiritual healing, spirit science. It's all bullshit, man. It's all bullshit. All you got to do is look at the evidence. Stop listening to people. Don't even listen to me. You hear every time I make a claim, I tell you, you can go look it up here. You can check it out here. You can read this book or whatever. I don't want people to just believe what I say. You know what I'm saying?
And see, that's our problem. See, that's the problem. See, our people just, when they hear something that sounds good or conform to their notion of belief, then it's not. They won't go look it up because what they feel like your word is saying, especially like when it comes to belief system or God, they don't even go look it up themselves. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them will lie and say, yes, I don't follow what man says. Like Tiana, that was her name. Her name was Tiana, and she said, I don't follow everything. I said, but shit, you in the atheist live now, and we're asking you questions, and you just said you don't believe what every man says, but number one, you're believing a book that man wrote. Number two, you're believing your elder. You just said so. And she's like, no, well, when he tell me something, I go research it myself. No, you don't. There is no way you can research it yourself, because if you did, you will find a contradiction in what your elder was saying. And that's when we asked him about fallible man. You know what I'm saying? She said, yeah, man can be flawed. I mean, I said, well, do you believe that your elder can actually teach you the wrong thing? And she said, yeah. I said, well, how do you know your elder is teaching you the right thing? You see what I'm saying? So that's the thing. There's no evidence. They just go by what's hearsay. Like you said, you show to a crime scene, you see bullet holes. How are you going to determine who did it? You got to investigate. They don't. That's something that they do. They don't do. They just look at it. Oh, it was a gunshot. I see 3 holes over here. Let's look at the boyfriend. That's it. That's all they do. That's the point they'll tell you.
I want y'all to take that approach to court when you got a loved one. Hopefully you don't. When you got a loved one, or you yourself end up in a trial, I want y'all to take that approach to court. Ask the prosecutor, were you there? Were you there? Were you there? See how fucking far you get. You ain't gonna get nowhere. So I don't understand how y'all think that shit hold weight in something that's even more important to you, as in your religion. So people put their religion over everything. You know what I'm saying? If I was to ask 100 people, what's the most important thing in the universe? I imagine that most of them would say God. And the fucked up part about it is there ain't no God. So the most important thing to most people ain't a thing. And that's the problem. That's why the world is not as good as it could be. If there was a such thing as a heaven, it would be right here. Because hello, we evolved to live here. We didn't evolve to live in outer fucking space somewhere. Or
Yeah,
wherever
exactly.
you think this heaven could be. It would have to be outside the universe, which makes no sense, or on
And
another planet.
and Danielle just made a good point. She's made a good point. They'll be like, no, look at the trees and look at the stars as anecdotal evidence. That's basically what they allude to, anecdotal evidence. You know what I'm saying?
And then I would return them to the same question. Like, were you there when the stars got made? Have you ruled out that this is all natural? So if I was to say, okay, like I was trying to ask that dumbass Christian Dashika, I'll ask her, if you come across a pond, how do you know if it's man-made or if it's just a pond? How do you determine this? Do you just believe it? Are all ponds man-made or are all ponds natural? No, there's ways you can go about finding out this information, right? You have to do some research, you have to do some evidence, you have to survey the land and see, you know, I mean, maybe go back and get some history maps of the land and see was it a water map right here, or are these only showing up in new maps? And you might get closer to the answer that you're looking for. But just saying that it's a pond right there don't mean that it was man-made pond. It could just be a pond. You know what I'm saying? So the stars exist, and they like to say stuff like stupid stuff like, no man could make the earth, no man could make a rock, no man could do this. Well, show me a God that can do it. You ain't got no evidence of what you claim done it. You just saying that no man can do it, which I don't understand why that's your standard for something being created by a super being. Just because a man can't do it. A man ain't nothing but a ape that can talk, and we wear clothes. We put on suits and we like to pretend that we ain't animals no more. Guess what? You still shit, piss, you got 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, you breathe oxygen, you eat food, you got red blood, just like every other animal. So how are you not an animal? So you talking about can't no man do this, can't no man, that don't mean nothing to me, but man can't do it. That don't mean that something above a man did it. It might just be natural. Sometimes things just happen. All right. So when you, like I was saying, it's hard to believe that God created the earth when you know how stars and planets form. We know this by observing the shit, not by just guessing. You know what I'm saying? They actually have evidence. So planets come from basically the remnants of a star. A star is coalesced mass and matter that gets so heavy it starts to react and fuse. The atoms start to fuse together, and that creates light and heat. The bigger the star, the higher the mass. Now all of that matter don't coalesce. Some of it get left out around, and it forms what's called an accretion disk. Now the same thing starts to happen with those accretion disks. Those little clumps of matter start to form together, and they end up forming asteroids, comets, and guess what? Planets. So that's where planets come from. So we already have an explanation for where planets come from. Your God is not needed. So not only is this motherfucker not observable, we can't see him, can't hear him, can't talk to him, but we don't need him. He don't do anything. Prayer works at the rate of chance. Planets can form without God just fine. We can explain the diversity of life just fine with evolution. The only thing that is left to explain is the origin, which, like Neil deGrasse Tyson say, we got our top people working on that. We'll get back with you. But just because we can't explain something don't mean that it can't be explained ever, or that some God done it. It just means that we're too stupid to be able to explain it. That's not proof of anything but your ignorance. We don't know where the universe came from. I think the universe is eternal because it don't make no sense to me for the shit to come from anywhere. It had to be another place for it to come from, right? So it don't make sense to me for the universe to come from somewhere. It just simply changed form. It was one way.
And
Now it's a different way.
Not only that, that's why, you know what I'm saying, They don't. When you ask them where did God come from, they don't want to deal with the infinite regress argument. You know what I'm saying? So if they like, well, the God is eternal. I said, well, no. I said, well, if he's eternal, was he self-caused? Like you said, and I asked you, can anything be self-caused? You said no. Well, God was self-caused. How did that happen? You know what I'm saying? So that's when they get into the infinite regress, and then it goes nowhere. It's just basically a circular argument.
Yeah, and there's the cognitive dissonance too, because they can't rationalize that what they're saying about the universe go for their God too. So well, it can't just come from nowhere. It can't just come from nowhere. Hello, that go for your God too, motherfucker. He can't just come from nowhere. Where did this motherfucker come from? He just exists. If God did exist, he would be a very complex being. And what we know is things that are complex don't just come from nowhere. They form over time, series of progression of this turning into this turning into this. A motherfucker start out as a baby, or before he's a baby, he's an embryo. You know what I'm saying? It gets turned into a baby. Then you grow into a child, an adolescent, a young adult. They're a full-grown human being. And you're still not done. Then you're going to turn to a older human being before you wither away and die. So you come into the world shitting on yourself, and you go out shitting on yourself. But this is a progression. Nobody's born an old fucking man except Benjamin Button. And that's a disease. So I want to take this time, man, to remind
Adam and Eve
everybody.
were born fully grown adults. They were born fully grown adults, and can't no Hebrew or Christian, ask that question. How was they born full grown adults? But they got a navel though. Both of them got navels. So what now?
That's it. It's
Magic,
magic.
yeah.
And that's another thing that we proved too, that Adam and Eve don't exist. And that's disproven by evolution. There was no first couple, that one man and one woman. That's impossible. That's not how life, how species began. You don't just pop out. Nobody gives, like, I'm a human. I'm not going to give birth to what humans one day evolved to. It's a slow progression over time. You can't just, it's like teleporting. I can't just go from Atlanta to California. I got to pass everywhere in between. You can't just go from this to that. You got to take this progression of steps in between. So it's always the offspring is the same species as its parent. But once the species, the offspring changes slightly, because you don't look exactly like your parents, you slightly different. And your kids are slightly different. And your kids gonna be slightly different. Their kids gonna be slightly different. So once you get down to the end of the line, that kid that's at the end of the line is way different from the motherfucker that was at the beginning of the line. And that's how you get speciation, evolution. And this takes a lot of time. And that's why people have a hard time understanding it, because they expecting to see it. Oh, I ain't never seen that happen. You ain't never lived for 1 billion years, you big dummy. But shout out to Powell.
I be telling them all the time. I'm sorry, evolution. Yeah, I be telling them all the time. I be like,
we doing the reverse cash out in a few minutes. So now is your time to get your dollars in if you want to participate in the Atheist Church Live reverse cash out. Please send in your dollar to $ Atheist Church. Go ahead, Kwame.
no, I be telling them all the time. What was I gonna say? I be telling them. Damn, I forgot what I was gonna say. It left me that quick, man. No, you good. You good.
It happen all the time. I just want to get that out and let everybody know that we still doing that. And appreciate your donations, Danielle, Steve the Theorist, and Powell. And we got a little bit of money in the pot. So if you want to get a nice, as they say in Christianity, a blessing, all you gotta do is send in $1. And if you lose, you're not really losing, because you're giving $1 to somebody else. You know what I'm saying? It's not coming to me. It's not coming to Kwame. It's going to one of the people who sent it. Might be you. Oh man. For all y'all Christians out there, if you pay tithes at your church, I challenge you to skip tithing and just take the money straight to the community that need it. Because all you're doing is giving money to a pastor who probably don't really need it as much as you think they do. Because I mean, how long your church gonna have a building fund? At some point, the shit should be built, right? You know what I mean? Like at some point, y'all should be done. Why is there a building fund? Other businesses don't got building funds, but your church got the building fund. I don't understand that. I don't understand that one bit. And these, I see all these old ladies writing checks, man. Let me, y'all know something about these preachers. If y'all never seen that documentary called Marjo. These preachers, not all of them, but at least one, because it's in the documentary Marjo. This motherfucker was getting so much money, he would just throw the checks away and keep the cash. All he wanted was the cash. So all these people that writing checks, check to make sure that those checks are actually getting deposited or whatever you donated to. And it's another preacher that set up a DBA, which is a separate company. I mean, doing business as. He set up a DBA that had a similar name to his church. It's like his church might have been like First Baptist Missionary, whatever the fuck. And then he made a DBA, like First Missionary Baptist. You know what I'm saying? So when people write checks, they write checks to the church, and he take them to his DBA and donate it to the DBA. And nigga got caught, but I imagine that for some reason they go easy on people that's diminishing the black community all the time. If you want to go far in life, sad to say, do like young Pharaoh and work against the black community. The white people will support you. They will lift you up. So it's a lot of white people that want to see black people fail, and they will support you in doing so. So all these preachers and stuff, they love to go, oh, please go out and preach. We're gonna drop the charges, pastor. We're gonna drop the charges, minister, so and so. You know what I'm saying? That's why these motherfuckers like to put that shit in front of their name, even though they ain't got no credentials, which don't mean shit even if you had them, because nigga, I could get them right now. It's gonna cost like $500. I can go get a bishop robe and be eligible to get marry people and all type of shit. All you gotta do is pay. So it don't mean that you qualified to do it or that you special or anything. It look like we got another entry. See who it is. That's Kwame. Okay, appreciate that, Kwame. So Kwame has entered the raffle. If y'all want to enter the raffle, all you gotta do is send $1 to Atheist Church on Cash App. Make sure you spell it right. If you spell it wrong, it's not gonna come to us and we can't help you. But there are people out there that make Cash Apps in similar names because they capitalize on y'all misspelling mistakes. So make sure you know how to spell. I can teach you about religion. I can't teach you how to spell. That's not my job. So you gotta make sure you spell it right. It's on the screen. $ Atheist Church. All right. And it's gonna say Atheist Church on there. So make sure you send it to the right people. Oh yeah, if y'all want to call in, y'all can call. You know what I'm saying? Don't be scared. Don't be scared. We ain't gonna bite. Click the link if you want to cam up. If you don't want to cam up, you can call in. You don't got to show your face, because I know, some people be nervous. Maybe you ain't got your hair done and you don't want to be on camera today. I get it. Just call in. You know what I mean? And we're gonna explore what you believe and why. If I said something that you think is not factual or incorrect, please tell me, because I enjoy when people tell me I'm wrong about something, especially if I'm wrong about it, because that way I ain't got to be wrong no more. Now I know. You know what I'm saying? You tell me, hey, actually you said this and it's actually this. Man, I've been corrected so many times. I don't got no problem with it, but for some reason people seem to have problems with people disagreeing with them. So I'm not one of those people you can call in and disagree all you want to. We're gonna have a respectful conversation and hopefully get closer to the truth. Because you ain't never gonna get close to the truth if you think you already got it. You got to be open to being wrong if you're gonna really get close to the truth. If you think you already got it, first of all, why you ain't the richest man in the world? Why you ain't got nothing but good stories to tell people? Why you still going through the same shit as everybody else if you got all the answers? So obviously, no one person has all the answers. You know what I'm saying? Even if you do, that don't necessarily mean that you're going to do the right thing with it. Or if you like Bill Gates and you got all the money, that don't necessarily mean you got all the answers. That's another mistake that people make. Y'all mistake income for intellect. But just because somebody got some money don't mean that they intelligent. And just because somebody don't got no money don't mean that they not intelligent. So somebody could win the lottery, might be dumb as a box of nails, but got lucky and hit the lottery. But y'all mistake income for intellect. So y'all see somebody with some money and y'all think, oh, he must have earned this. He must have done something to this. He might be like Donald Trump, dumb as shit, but his daddy was rich. His daddy gave him $1 million. He fucked it up. Daddy give him another shot, $1 million. And if you fucked $1 million up twice, you really dumb. So the fact that Donald Trump is a billionaire, like, duh, you better been a billionaire if you started life with $1 million. Nigga, if any one of us, me, Kwame, or any one of y'all watching was given $1 million when y'all was 18, I guarantee you probably end up being a fucking billionaire. If you had any know-how. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna put some of this stuff into the stock market. I'm gonna start this business. You know what I'm saying? And y'all know how Donald Trump do business. He don't pay no damn taxes. So of course he's a fucking billionaire. That don't mean that nigga smart. I mean, he had money to begin with. So stop doing that. Stop mistaking income for intellect. Side note. But Kwame, if you got anything you want to say, I'm gonna go ahead and get this reverse collection plate started. It's gonna take me a while to get everybody's names entered into the spin wheel. For everybody that wants to participate, now is the time to send it. Send your dollars
Well,
in.
I just text Captain Zazariak again. He said that right now they're doing a reading right now. He said, sorry you couldn't make it. Yeah. He knew what time it was. He knew what time it was. I mean, he might well be doing his reading, but he knew what time it was. Because he said, at the clubhouse on Friday, he said, yeah, bro, yeah, I want to come. He was all hyped up about it. But when he found out he was coming on your channel, because I sent him the clip, he said, send me the YouTube channel. And I sent him a video, you know what I'm saying, about it. And it's like, he was like, you know what, dog, I got a reading to do. He like, nah, bro, nah.
Because one thing about it, you know what I'm saying, these motherfuckers deal with the Bible, right? So like I was saying before, I don't even have to go that far. We ain't got to deal with the Bible. I can, you know what I'm saying? We can get into the verses. Y'all seen me do it before. We can get into the verses if y'all want to, but it really ain't, we ain't got to take it that far. So I would rather ask you like just regular comments as questions. And that's what people have a hard time doing, especially on air. You know, like you remember I think it was our first interview with Freddie Biggs. And we asked him this question, and he just, I don't know. Then mama like, get the fuck out of there, hang up. You know what I'm saying? Like he couldn't take it. And we ain't doing nothing but asking questions. They got so upset. Why y'all ganging up on him and all this stuff? I'm like, ganging up? We just asking questions. How you know this? Where you get that from? Well, okay, so if I told you this, would you believe me? You don't believe me, but you believe the book, and that's ganging up on somebody. Nah. Ganging up is when it's people fighting somebody or doing it in a hostile way. All I'm doing is trying to figure out what you believe and why. Why you believe. If I told you some crazy shit like I believe I can fly, wouldn't you wonder why? Why you believe that shit? Have you ever flown before? Do you have wings? Why do you believe that you can fly? I want to know why. Because this shit sound crazy to me. But I want to know why you believe it. Because if you can show me a good reason why you believe it, guess what? I believe it too. Hello. All y'all Hebrew Israelites, y'all ain't got to be scared. Because if y'all can prove that what you talking about is worth something, I'm gonna be a fucking Hebrew Israelite. I'm looking for the truth. And they do the same scam shit that the white people do, and they call it the truth instead of calling it the Bible. Oh, when I found the truth, you know what I'm saying? Ain't no fucking, that shit ain't true. You know what I'm saying? That shit make y'all feel good because y'all think that the religion is about y'all.
Yeah, they weren't in slavery. Yeah, they weren't in slavery ship as a badge of honor. And see that Deuteronomy 28:60. I told the Hebrews, that's what I was gonna say. I told these Hebrews in the clubhouse, I was like, do y'all realize black people been in slavery over here for 400 years? Right. Okay. The Bible, the King James Bible is only 410 years old. So they was writing down the shit at the council as the shit was going on. Slavery was already going on even 200 years before the King James Bible. That's why it don't even look like a prophecy because slavery was already happening before the Bible. So how is it a fucking prophecy when slavery was already happening? Even before the printing press.
Facts, man. Like I was saying on the video, Jesus versus coronavirus. That lady was trying to say, "Oh, God said this was gonna happen. God said this was gonna happen." What part of the Bible did you read? Because I ain't read that part. Where God said we're going. If God said right here that we will experience famine and disease and war. Hello, famine and disease and war was already going on. So whoever wrote this shit ain't telling you no prophecy. They just telling you what's going on. And if I say in the future, the sun gonna rise every day. Because I'm a prophet from God. And I'm telling you the sun will rise. And it shall set. But it will return the next day. Because God told me so. Does that make me a prophet? Or does that make me a fucking nigga with common sense that can see that the sun rises every goddamn day? Hello. So that's not a prophecy to tell me about some shit that's gonna happen in the
It's
future
not
that's
even an
already
educated
happening.
guess.
It's
not even an
already
educated guess.
it ain't shit. It's an observation at the most, observation. Y'all telling me some stuff that's already happening. You know what I'm saying? So they have no, as we said earlier, good evidence. Good, all they have is hearsay. The Bible is a big book
Or
of hearsay.
anecdotal evidence or circumstantial evidence, basically meaning, since slavery was Deuteronomy 28. Yeah, it's circumstantial evidence, man. That's all it is. Because they're equating Deuteronomy 28:68, you know what I'm saying, with modern day slavery. My question to the Hebrews, I know you got to do this reverse collection plate. Why did God send y'all into Egypt? Why did God send the Israelites into Egypt the first time? Was they being bad? Or did he send them in there to get nourishment? Because Pharaoh fed they motherfucking ass. Pharaoh should have let their ass starve. Fuck them.
You know, and then the Bible, look, guess what? The Bible, they doing the same tactic again. They ain't gonna name them. They're just gonna say Pharaoh. All these pharaohs had names. They didn't go by Pharaoh. You know what I'm saying? They had names like Pharaoh such and such. You know what I'm saying? We don't just call the president. Sometimes they say Mr. President, but generally speaking, they call him President Obama, President Trump, President Nixon, President whatever the fuck his name is. So I want to know the names of the pharaoh. You can't just tell me fucking pharaoh. That's not good enough evidence. All right. You can't tell me the king from way back when killed your great granddad. And I say, what king? You say just say the king. That don't tell me nothing. And make me not believe you because you can't even give me a fucking name. You can't say God did this, God did that, and I say which God, and you talk about the God, the creator, the only God there is. Nah, motherfucker, which God are you talking about? Because it's been a lot of proposed gods. You just saying God. That's like saying somebody dad shot Sally, and I say, well, who's dad? The person who shot Sally's dad. No shit, Sherlock. What's his name? Because that ain't telling us nothing. You know what I'm saying? You giving us titles. Satan is a title that means adversary. His name, Lucifer. That's y'all don't call that. Y'all call him Satan, which is his title. Adversary. That's like saying, hey, colonel, general, or something like that. Hey, boss. These are not names. So y'all, again,
I was a corporal, and I was a corporal in the military. They didn't just say corporal. They go give me a corporal. And people be like, which corporal you want me to get? We had a bunch of corporals in the unit. Like, and then you got hey man, I need a corporal. What corporal do you need? So he just
exactly.
Which one do you need? Specialist? Do you need one that's a medic? Do you need one that's a artilleryman? Which one do you need? Because I was artillery, so we had different corporals for different jobs. So yeah.
Exactly, man. So that's a game that the religious people, especially Christians, like to play. And I hope y'all don't fall for it no more. If you have fallen for it in the past, and y'all see through it. You don't let nobody just give you a title and tell it to you like it's history. Because if it's history, this motherfucker got a name. What is his name? And when you go back farther in time, they didn't have last names, but they had where they was from. So you would have like it would be Joshua of Palestine or wherever he was from, right? Because it might be another Joshua from somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? So these people had something like a last name that was like from where you was from. It would be like Apollos from Greece or whatever, or so and so from Rome. But then that was before they had last names. But they always had some type of a name. Wasn't nobody just going by a title. You know what I'm saying? So We got to get out of that acceptance of people just loosely saying God this and God that. Nah, motherfucker, put a title on that bitch. Put a name to that motherfucker. What God are you talking about? Because I don't know if you're talking about Vishnu, Krishna, Allah, Yahweh, motherfucking Hercules, Zeus, Thor, Amoxilus, Serapis, all these other gods that's been proposed. I don't know who you talking about. And you trying to cheat and say I'm talking about the only God that is, the God that created. And I say, well, what make you think something was created? How you know the pond is natural versus man-made? Why are you assuming that the pond was man-made? How you know that it's not just a pond? You know what I'm saying? And they can never answer that. They always say some shit like, well, it couldn't have came from nowhere. I agree. But how you know that it was created? It couldn't have came from nowhere. I agree. How you know it was created? Because you ain't exhausting all the possibilities. Motherfuckers act like either the shit came from nowhere or God done it. That's not the only two possibilities. Those are the two absurdities. Either the shit came from nowhere or God done it. That's absurd. Both of them are absurd. How about the shit is a process of formation that takes billions and billions of years. There's one thing changing from one state to the next. So the universe and what we call the Big Bang, that don't tell you nothing about the universe other than it expanded. It don't say where it came from, what it was, how it happened. All it says is, man, this shit was real small. It got bigger real fast. You know what I'm saying? And the Big Bang is actually a misleading term because it wasn't big and it didn't bang. There's no sound, no air out there in space for the sound to travel through. And the term Big Bang was actually used in a derogatory sense. Like they was joking about it, like, what you think the universe just came from some Big Bang? You know, that's how they was describing it back then. Now it's kind of stuck. But all it is an expansion of the universe. So the universe was really, really, really small and it expanded. That's it. It don't say where it came from, but that's the beginning of time. I think they do think that's the beginning of time, but that's because time is largely an illusion. Time is a byproduct of things moving and changing. If things don't move and change, time makes no sense. So we measure time by the things moving. If it's 12 o'clock, it ain't just 12 o'clock. We say it's 12 o'clock because the sun is at the highest point in the sky. If that bitch stay right there, it's always gonna be 12 o'clock. And on the other side of the world, it's always gonna be midnight. But we keep track of the movement of the sun in order to keep time so that we can coordinate. So I could tell Tazariak and Kwame, hey, we're gonna be on live at 9 o'clock. We supposed to start at 8, but it's gonna be 9 o'clock. So we can coordinate with each other. We have this time. But really what I'm saying is, hey, when the sun gets to this position in the sky, we're gonna start the show. That's what it means. Things moving creates time. So if the universe stayed a singularity, time is not needed, time is not necessary, just like your God is not necessary. But let's get on to the reverse collection plate. Shout out to everybody that signed in and make sure I don't got no people that I'm missing out on. All right. Hope everybody can see. We're gonna get it started. Now we do this every week, so if y'all want to participate, I encourage you to do so. You don't gotta wait till show day to send your dollar. You can send it anytime during the week, and the money just sits there and it adds up, you know. So right now we're looking at about $31, which is a little bit less than what I would hope to be giving away, but I can only give what y'all seeing. So shout out to the people that have sent in the reverse collection plate entries, and let's get it going. Now this is something that I guarantee you your church ain't never gonna do. Give you some money that you haven't already given them. And the winner is Danielle War once again. So as y'all see, we do this randomly. I don't pick the name. I don't pick the winner. I just put it on the list and the computer picks. So Danielle War is the winner. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Peace, Omega Dread. Aaron Savage. I missed you last week. I thought you was going to call in. What happened to you, sister? We in here today. All right, so let me send it. And y'all can see I'm sending it to her right now. because I know people have a hard time trusting people with all the scammers and what I'm saying, capitalists out here, the Dr. Umars and shit like that. I don't want y'all to think that we just want y'all money. We give this money right back to whoever. And the purpose is to show that the atheists do something more for the community than the Christians do. Because Christians just take money from the people. Church just
Yeah,
take money
exactly.
from you. We don't want to do that. We don't want your money like that. We want to empower y'all, to help y'all. So if Christianity can't do it, but the atheist can, then that says a lot for your good God.
Exactly. That's the thing. They say that the money is used to build the kingdom of God. What kingdom? I mean, do y'all have any building plans? I be wanting to ask churches if it's to further build God's kingdom. Like, who's building God's kingdom? I mean, what Mexicans they hired to go build God's kingdom? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I don't see no Mexicans walking to heaven and shit. With some damn plywood and some lumber and some cement and a 6-pack of Corona. You know what I'm saying? Because them motherfuckers do be drinking on the job though. They do. So
They
I don't
do.
know, man.
They do, man. But I don't get it, man. Like I said it earlier. I think you had stepped away. But I'm asking, like, how long is your church gonna have a building fund? Shouldn't the shit be built at some point? Shouldn't it get to a point where we're done building? Like, why y'all still need money for a building fund? I mean, Red Cross don't got a building fund. They just accept donations. Blue Shield don't got a building fund, but this church always got a fucking building fund. And it don't look like y'all, you know what I'm saying, building shit. At least not the churches that I frequent. So they look the damn same as they did 10 years ago. You know what I
That's just like
mean?
them
They
damn
might,
mega churches, man.
yeah,
Man,
but they make so much money, man.
they got over 30,000 plus members, and they're all putting their tithes and offerings in. That's why they're able to afford a security team. I ended up quitting that job, man. I couldn't stand being at that church doing security for them. You know what I'm saying? And I had to say, in order for me to keep my job, I had to say, God bless you, God bless. I said, man, I don't even believe in a God. Because people like, well, he ain't saying God bless me. I'm gonna go report it to Robert, whatever that pastor name was. It was the Gateway Church I was working at, and I basically just quit going. I just told him, hey man, either put me at the bank or let me go.
I always ask people what that mean. I just like to see people squirm when they talking about shit that don't mean nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like when people started talking about spirits and blessings, I say, what's that? What that mean? I don't know what that mean. I just play dumb. What's that? What that mean? And watch them realize they don't know what the fucking mean either. They're just repeating some shit that are told to them. Oh, God bless you.
The
God bless you.
parents.
What does that mean? What does that mean? God bless you. Are you instructing God to bless me? Are you forcing God to bless me? Are you suggesting to God to bless me? And what does it mean for God to bless me? Does that mean cut my head off? Does that mean give me some money? What does that mean? How do you know these things? And I like to watch people squirm when you ask them simple questions like, what's that? You telling me this shit, well, what is it? And they can't tell you what it is. Trust and believe. If I tell you something and you ask me what it is, I'm gonna be able to tell you what I'm talking about. Because I don't too much talk about nothing that I don't know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? So if you hear that shit, man, if I was you, just ask them, play dumb. What that mean? What God bless you?
Well, I can say
What
that
does
now,
that
but at
mean?
first I was just trying to keep a job. You know what I'm saying? But I don't even work there no
Yeah,
more.
okay.
So
That's messed up too, man. That they would like instruct somebody else to do that. Oh, you gotta say this and you gotta say that. Why are you trying to control what I say? You know what I'm saying?
I really don't even say nothing at all. I'm like, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? They be like, God bless, and I don't even know how to. It's like my response would be like, okay, thank you. You know, that'd be my
I
response.
don't even say bless you when people sneeze no more. You know what I'm saying? And some people find it rude, but I would ask them like, why you need me to say bless you? You know what I'm saying? Some people like they'll sneeze and they'll be like, bless me, like all rude, like because they mad I didn't say it. And
I
I'm
don't
just like,
say it either.
okay. You know what I mean? And if
I
I
don't never
sneeze and
say it.
somebody say it, I'm gonna ask them, why you say that? What that mean? You know what I'm saying? Because I asked that
Exactly.
question when I was a kid, man. At this time, I was still believing in Christianity. I just wanted to know, why do we say bless you when we sneeze? And you know what I was told? Motherfuckers told me your heart stop every time you sneeze. And that's their way of, you know what I'm saying? We say bless you to protect you. And I grew up believing that shit. Oh, your heart stop every
I
time you
don't think
sneeze.
that's true either. I
It's
don't think your
not.
heart stops when you
It's
sneeze.
definitely not true. It's not true. But that's what I was told, though. That's what I'm telling you. This is how religious people think, bro. This was
It
what I
skips
was
a beat,
told
but
as
it
a
doesn't.
kid.
It doesn't stop.
As a fucking kid. This is what I was told. Your heart stop, and
It
you got to say
don't-
bless you because you could die. Even though I don't ever hear about people dying from sneezing, but that's what I was
That's
told. You
almost
know what I'm
never.
saying? And
That's
ever
almost
since
never.
I stopped saying it, I ain't noticed a difference other than the fact that some people find it rude. Some people don't notice, you know what I'm saying, that you didn't say bless you. But in other countries, that's not something, it's a cultural thing. That's not something that you have to do. You know, like we shake hands. Some countries they don't do that shit. Some countries they
Mhm.
lock pinkies. We don't lock pinkies. But some countries they do that shit. You know what I'm saying? So we say bless you. In some countries they say gesundheit. But this is a cultural thing. It's not something that you're required to do. And it ain't even, if you think it ain't even in the Bible. So if you want to follow the Bible like you say you do, you adding all this extra stuff to it. You know what I'm saying? And it's pointless. So if y'all want to see another video about pointless stuff, I did it on Christmas, why we celebrate Christmas, and the prayer experiment. It talked about how all these religions know that the other religions do stuff that's pointless. Like the Christians know that you don't have to face the east when you pray, so they don't do it. And the Muslims know that you don't have to take communion because Jesus' body ain't turning into no breadcrumbs. But each one of these believes their own crazy story, but they don't believe the crazy stories of the other religions. You know what I'm saying? Hello, cognitive dissonance.
Exactly.
But I want to remind everybody that Atheist Church Live is an audio podcast. You can listen to it anywhere you get podcasts. If you have a smart speaker, you can say, "Hey Alexa," or wherever smart speaker you have, play Atheist Church Live, and then they'll play us. So please subscribe to our audio podcast. Help us out. Don't forget to tune in next week. Participate in the reverse collection plate. And Kwame, if you got anything else to add, we'll go ahead and close out the show after you get your last
Yes.
word in.
All right, y'all. So this is what I'm about to do. So, to not clutter, Quayle's main channel, Atheist Church Live, I do have a channel, which is the Black Atheist Reality Show. We are going to do all the Bible comedies over there, the chick tracks and the rants over there. So so the channel that I created is going to be an open forum, and it's anything goes. You know what I'm saying? But we're going to keep it respectful, but it's going to be an open, because I don't want to clutter the atheist church. You know what I'm saying? Because this is more educational, and mine could be and then the Black Atheist Reality Show can be the rants, it can be the comedy, it can be whatever. So that's what. So after this, I'm gonna actually do this, open up my channel right now and get started with the Bible comedy over there. So if y'all want to join, just click on my icon and hit subscribe and hit the notification bell, because I am about to go live in a few seconds. I got to get my people from the clubhouse to show up so we can go and get this Bible comedy thing going.
Yeah, for sure. Y'all make sure y'all follow Kwame over there to the Atheist Church channel. Oh, I'm sorry. What was it called again? I'm sorry.
The Black Atheist Reality Show.
Black Atheist Reality Show. Follow him over there, hit subscribe, and before y'all leave here, hit that like button and make sure you subscribe to this channel as well. And we will see you next week. Kwame, send me that link so I can join in.
All right, bet.